Let's be honest, nobody starts at the top. Before they were icons, before they were winning Oscars and headlining blockbusters, some of the biggest stars in history had to take whatever roles they could get. And sometimes, those roles were just plain embarrassing. Some of them fumbled through musicals they had no business singing in, or played roles so ridiculous they probably hoped the world would forget. But Hollywood never forgets. These first roles were awkward, cringeworthy, and in some cases downright hilarious. But they were also stepping stones because even the biggest movie legends had to start somewhere. Humphrey Bogart, talking chess-playing robot. Before Humphrey Bogart became the ultimate tough guy of Hollywood, the man who could make smoking a cigarette look like an art form, he had to start somewhere. And that somewhere was playing a robotic chess player in a weird little 1930 film called Broadway's Like That. Yeah, the same guy who would one day define cool in Casablanca and The Maltese Falcon was once cast as a literal chess-playing automaton. In the film, a young Bogart would be sitting stiffly, barely speaking, as he mechanically moves chess pieces across a board. It was a role so strange and so beneath what he was capable of that it almost feels like a bad joke. But at the time, Bogart was just another struggling actor trying to make it in Hollywood, and when you're starting out, you take what you can get, even if it means playing a human chess machine. Of course, this wasn't exactly a role that screamed future legend. In fact, it was the kind of part that could have easily ended a career before it even started. But Bogart didn't let it define him. He kept pushing, kept grinding, and within a decade he went from playing a mute sideshow attraction to becoming one of the most unforgettable faces in cinema history. Years later, when he was a full-fledged Hollywood icon, even Bogart himself laughed about how ridiculous that first role was. And honestly, it's kind of comforting to know that even the greats had their awkward beginnings. Because if Humphrey Bogart could go from being a robotic chess player to Rick Blaine in Casablanca, then hey, anything's possible. James Stewart, horrible musical actor. Before James Stewart became the lovable all-American everyman, the guy who could make you believe in the goodness of people in It's a Wonderful Life, or take you on a suspenseful ride in Rear Window, he had to start somewhere, and that was Art Trouble, a 1934 short film that almost no one remembers, except maybe for how awkward it was. Now, Stewart had a lot of natural talent, but there was one thing he absolutely wasn't cut out for: musicals. Unfortunately for him, Art Trouble was exactly that. The film, directed by Walt Disney, featured Stewart in a big role where he was expected to sing. The problem was he couldn't carry a tune to save his life. It was one of those performances where you could almost hear the studio execs shifting uncomfortably in their seats, realizing they might have made a mistake. Stewart himself later admitted he wasn't meant for musical numbers, and honestly, that was fine. Hollywood quickly figured out that his strength wasn't in singing, but in his warm, everyman charm, the kind of guy who could make you root for him no matter what. So while Art Trouble wasn't exactly a career highlight, it was just a stepping stone, because soon enough, Stewart would trade in the bad musical gigs for roles that would cement him as one of Hollywood's most beloved stars, and thankfully, he never had to sing on screen again. Shelley Winters, a background blonde. Shelley Winters became a two-time Oscar-winning actress, stealing scenes in The Diary of Anne Frank, A Place in the Sun, and Lolita, but before then she was just another blonde in a sea of blondes. Her Hollywood debut in There's Something About a Soldier in 1943 was about as forgettable as a first role could get. She was there, sure, but did anyone really notice? Not really. Winters had all the trademarks of a Hollywood starlet: big eyes, a dazzling smile, and that classic blonde bombshell look. But the problem was, so did half the women trying to break into the industry at the time. In There's Something About a Soldier, she was little more than background decoration, one of those blink and you'll miss her appearances that don't exactly scream future Oscar winner. For someone as outspoken and fiery as Winters, it must have been a frustrating way to start, but she wasn't about to let Hollywood box her in as just another pretty face. She fought for meatier roles, proved she had talent beyond her looks, and slowly worked her way up to films that actually let her act. And when she did, she showed everyone that she wasn't just another blonde, she was Shelley Winters. Kim Novak, toothpaste commercial and film. Before Vertigo, she was just another pretty face in the background of The French Line in 1954. No dramatic monologues, no deep soulful stares, just a showgirl flashing a toothpaste commercial smile. If you didn't know better, you'd never guess this woman would go on to work with Alfred Hitchcock and become one of the most intriguing actresses of her time. At the start of her career, Novak wasn't exactly being courted for serious roles. Hollywood saw a blonde with striking features and figured they should put her in a glittery outfit and have her stand around looking pretty. And that's exactly what The French Line did. She was barely noticed, just another background beauty in a movie designed to be flashy and shallow. But Novak had more to offer than a perfect smile and a killer figure. She refused to be just another Hollywood starlet pushed into formulaic roles. Eventually, she landed parts that let her show depth, mystery, and an almost hypnotic screen presence. And when Hitchcock cast her in Vertigo, he turned that presence into something unforgettable. Looking back at her first role, it's almost funny to think that Hollywood once thought she was just decoration. Charles Bronson, silent coal miner. Charles Bronson, the name alone brings to mind hardened criminals, revenge seekers, and men who don't waste words when a cold stare will do. He ruled the screen in The Magnificent Seven, Death Wish, and The Dirty Dozen, cementing himself as Hollywood's go-to tough guy. But before all that, before the rugged face and the steely glare became legendary, Bronson was just another nameless extra in You're in the Navy Now in 1951. And when I say nameless, I mean it. His character was credited as Wasilowski, a mouthful of a name for a guy who barely spoke. It's almost comical to think about. Here's a man who built an entire career on his intense, brooding presence. Yet Hollywood's first instinct was to have him blend into the background. No tough guy lines, no action-packed brawls, just a quiet, forgettable role in a military comedy. If anything, it proves how little Hollywood initially understood what they had on their hands. But Bronson wasn't the kind of guy to stay overlooked for long. He climbed his way up role by role, proving that sometimes less really is more, because when Charles Bronson did start speaking on screen, people listened. Vincent Price, comedy flop. Vincent Price, the man whose very voice could send shivers down spines, whose presence alone could turn any film into a gothic masterpiece. He was the king of horror, the eerie, sophisticated villain of House of Wax, The Fly, and The Mask of the Red Death. But before he was haunting audiences, he was, well, kind of a goofball. His big Hollywood debut came in 1938's Service de Luxe, a light-hearted comedy where he played a clueless, charming playboy. No dark castles, no sinister laughter, no macabre monologues, just a guy bumbling his way through a fluffy romance. Price later admitted he had absolutely no idea what he was doing and wasn't even sure if acting was for him. It's almost impossible to imagine now, knowing how effortlessly he would later command the screen with his signature blend of menace and sophistication. But Hollywood has a way of finding people's true strengths, and it wasn't long before Price's deep voice, theatrical delivery, and natural gravitas led him down a much darker and much more iconic path. It turns out horror was waiting for him all along. Joan Fontaine, bad singing debut. Joan Fontaine is remembered as one of Hollywood's most refined and elegant leading ladies, the kind of actress who could make quiet suffering look like an art form. With her expressive eyes and delicate presence, she became a perfect fit for classic dramas like Rebecca, Suspicion, and Jane Eyre, where she played women caught in psychological turmoil. But before she was an Oscar-winning actress, before she was even taken seriously in Hollywood, she had to endure a rather cringeworthy start, one that involved an unfortunate attempt at singing. Her first real film appearance came in No More Ladies in 1935, a romantic comedy starring Joan Crawford and Robert Montgomery. Fontaine's role was barely even a role. She played a party guest, someone meant to blend into the crowd. But somewhere along the way, someone in Hollywood had the idea that she should sing. And that's where the real problem started. Let's just say Fontaine was not cut out for musicals. Her voice lacked the power, control, and charisma needed to carry a tune, and rather than making an impression, she simply made it painfully obvious that she wasn't meant to be in a singing role. It wasn't just forgettable, it was awkward. Even Fontaine herself would later reflect on how unsuited she was for that kind of performance. Luckily, Hollywood caught on quickly. No one was going to cast her as the next big musical star, but they did start noticing that she had something else, an emotional depth, a vulnerability that could work beautifully in more serious roles. Within a few years, she had transitioned from random girl at a party to leading lady, and by 1941, she had an Oscar in her hands for Suspicion. Looking back, Fontaine's first role was little more than a minor misstep, an embarrassing detour before she found her true calling. But it does make you wonder if Hollywood had stubbornly tried to push her into more musicals. Would we have ever gotten her legendary performances? Probably not. Sometimes even a bad start can lead to the right destination. Anne Bancroft, a cliché damsel in distress. Anne Bancroft was never meant to be just another pretty face in Hollywood, but that's exactly how the industry treated her in the beginning. Long before she seduced Dustin Hoffman in The Graduate or delivered a powerhouse performance in The Miracle Worker, she was given the kind of forgettable role that so many young actresses were stuck with: a damsel in distress, a decorative love interest, a woman with little to do beyond looking good. Her first film appearance in Don't Bother to Knock in 1952 had her playing the standard romantic lead, a character with no real weight or complexity. The film itself was a psychological thriller starring Marilyn Monroe in one of her early dramatic roles, but Bancroft? She was mostly just there to fill the space, to be the conventionally attractive woman that Hollywood expected her to be. There was no sign of the fierce, commanding screen presence she would later become known for. For an actress of Bancroft's caliber, it must have been frustrating. She knew she was capable of more, but at the time, Hollywood had a one-track mind when it came to young women. It was all about beauty first, talent second. It took years for her to break free from the shallow roles she was given, to prove that she could hold her own in films that actually demanded something of her. And when she finally got those roles, she didn't just succeed, she dominated. The Miracle Worker won her an Oscar, and The Graduate made her a legend. She became known for intensity, intelligence, and a commanding presence that couldn't be ignored. Looking back, it's almost laughable that Hollywood once saw her as just another forgettable leading lady. If only they had realized sooner what they had on their hands. Janet Leigh, a background college girl. Janet Leigh is best remembered for one of the most iconic and shocking moments in cinema history, the infamous shower scene in Psycho. With just a few minutes of screen time, she changed the horror genre forever. But before she became the ultimate scream queen and starred in classic thrillers like Touch of Evil and The Manchurian Candidate, Hollywood had her playing it painfully safe. Her film debut in The Romance of Rosie Ridge in 1947 couldn't have been further from the dark, suspenseful roles that would later define her career. It was a light-hearted, overly sentimental post-Civil War romance, and Leigh played exactly the kind of character Hollywood loved to throw young actresses into, a sweet, innocent farm girl with nothing particularly interesting to do. The movie itself was the cinematic equivalent of a Hallmark card, nice enough but completely forgettable. For an actress with Leigh's potential, this kind of start could have been a career death sentence. Hollywood had a habit of trapping young women in a box, churning out one wholesome, wide-eyed girl after another. If Leigh hadn't broken free from that mold, she might have been stuck playing the same sugary sweet characters for years. But thankfully, she proved she could do a whole lot more. By the time Psycho came around, she had already transitioned into more sophisticated roles, but nothing could have prepared audiences for what she did in Hitchcock's masterpiece. The woman who once played a simple farm girl in a feel-good romance had suddenly become the face of terror. It was a transformation that no one saw coming, and it allowed her to take her place in film history. Looking back at her debut, it's almost comical to think that Hollywood once thought she was only fit for soft, sentimental love stories. Claudette Colbert, a ridiculous silent film starlet. Claudette Colbert was the personification of charm, sophistication, and razor-sharp wit, lighting up classics like It Happened One Night, Cleopatra, and The Palm Beach Story. She had a way of delivering lines with effortless elegance, making every role feel natural and magnetic. But if you judged her potential based on her very first film, you never would have guessed the legend she would become. Her debut came in the silent film For the Love of Mike, 1927, a movie so disastrous that its director, Frank Capra, later pretended it didn't exist. It was a light comedy about an orphan trying to find his birth parents, but Colbert, who was supposed to be the leading lady, had almost nothing to work with. And for an actress whose greatest strength would later be her smooth, fast-paced delivery, the silent format was practically a death sentence. There was no witty banter, no sharp dialogue, just exaggerated expressions and title cards. The movie flopped so hard that Colbert nearly gave up on Hollywood right then and there. She decided to stick to Broadway, convinced that her talents were better suited for the stage. But fate had other plans, and when Talking Pictures took over, she finally got the chance to prove what she could do. Within a few years, she went from a forgettable silent film starlet to an Oscar-winning actress who could do comedy, drama, and everything in between. Looking back, For the Love of Mike was just an awkward misstep, one that no one, including Colbert herself, wanted to remember. It's almost poetic that Frank Capra, the same director who disowned her first film, later directed her in It Happened One Night, the movie that made her a star. If nothing else, it's proof that even Hollywood's greatest icons can start out with a role best left in the past. Rita Moreno, a dancer lost in the crowd. Rita Moreno is now a living legend, one of the few performers to ever achieve EGOT status, with unforgettable roles in West Side Story, The King and I, and Singin' in the Rain. She's known for her fierce screen presence, undeniable talent, and the kind of career longevity most actors can only dream of. But back when she first started out, Hollywood didn't quite know what to do with her. However, her earliest roles weren't exactly groundbreaking. She was mostly cast as a background dancer, blending into big musical numbers where no one really noticed her. It was the kind of work that paid the bills but didn't get her any closer to real stardom. Then came So Young, So Bad, a 1950 melodrama about troubled girls in a reform school. It might sound like the perfect setup for a juicy role, but Moreno's part was more of the same. Just another rebellious teenager lost in the shuffle of a forgettable B-movie. The film did nothing for her career, and for years she was stuck playing variations of the same background characters. Hollywood only saw her as an exotic dancer or a fiery love interest, never giving her the kind of opportunities that would let her show what she could really do. It took sheer persistence and a whole lot of patience before she finally got the roles that made her a star. Looking back, So Young, So Bad is just a blip in her career, the kind of movie even die-hard fans probably haven't seen, but it's proof that even the most celebrated icons have to start somewhere, even if that somewhere is a film no one remembers. Susan Hayward, a throwaway extra. Susan Hayward commanded the screen, with 5 Oscar nominations and unforgettable roles in I Want to Live, with A Song in My Heart and Smash Up, the Story of a Woman. She built a reputation for playing strong-willed, complex women who could hold their own in any situation. But before Hollywood recognized her talent, she was just another face in the background, blending into the scenery like a prop. Her first job in the industry was being an extra in Hollywood Hotel, a lighthearted 1937 musical that had nothing to do with her skill set. There was no drama, no intensity, just a young woman filling space in a film that barely noticed she was there. It's almost laughable to think that the same actress who would later deliver powerhouse performances was once treated as a living decoration. But Hayward didn't stay in the background for long. She had the kind of presence that refused to be ignored, and once Hollywood caught on, she became one of the most formidable actresses of her time. Looking back, Hollywood Hotel was a completely forgettable start for someone who would go on to set the screen on fire. But hey, everybody has to start somewhere. Lauren Bacall, a cringeworthy fashion model. Lauren Bacall oozed confidence. That husky voice, that slow-burning stare, she could make a simple hello sound like a challenge. She wasn't just an actress, She was a presence. In To Have and Have Not, The Big Sleep, and Key Largo, she mastered the art of sharp, no-nonsense allure, becoming one of Hollywood's most iconic femme fatales. But before all that, she was just standing there. Literally. Her first on-screen appearance was in CoverGirl, where she was nothing more than a background fashion model. No lines, no signature smoldering delivery, just a pretty face meant to fill out the scenery. Imagine that. The woman who could hold her own against Humphrey Bogart was once just window dressing. Of course, that didn't last long. Bacall had too much magnetism to be sidelined. Hollywood figured it out fast, and soon, she wasn't just a model in the background. She was the one everyone was looking at. Barbara Stanwyck, a forgettable chorus girl. Barbara Stanwyck was the definition of a powerhouse actress, sharp, commanding, and absolutely magnetic on screen. She wasn't the type to play damsels in distress. She owned the room. Whether it was plotting murder in Double Indemnity, breaking hearts in Stella Dallas, or trading wits in Ball of Fire, she had a presence that couldn't be ignored. But before all that, Hollywood barely noticed her. Her first film, Broadway Nights, didn't exactly roll out the red carpet for her. She wasn't given a juicy role or even a single memorable scene. Nope, she was just another chorus girl in the background, blending in with the crowd, completely unrecognizable from the screen legend she would become. No snappy dialogue, no big moments, just a forgettable extra in a movie no one really talks about anymore. It's almost funny to imagine Barbara Stanwyck, the woman who could hold her own against the toughest leading men, being treated as filler. But Hollywood wised up fast. Before long, she wasn't just in the movie, she was the movie. Some of the old-time Hollywood celebrities were into stuff you wouldn't believe, from having weird obsessions with scat
It is Austin.
to something as bizarre as an irrational fear for the color purple. There is no denying the fact that most of what you're about to be exposed to make absolutely no sense. Charles Laughton's weird diet. In his memoir, Full Service, My Adventures in Hollywood and the Sex Lives of the Stars, Scotty Bowers claims to have either slept with or arranged sexual liaisons for hundreds of the best-known celebrities during Hollywood's golden age. One of the most shocking stories involves British actor Charles Laughton. But that's not all. According to Bowers, Laughton once asked him to bring over a young male guest while his wife was out. When Bowers and the young man arrived, Laughton began making a sandwich. He carefully sliced up lettuce and tomatoes, arranged them on sourdough bread, added a bit of lemon juice, and sprinkled some salt and pepper. This is where it gets interesting. After a few minutes of prep work, Laughton took the bread slices in one hand, picked up a pot with the other, and asked the young man to follow him into the bathroom. But what happened next will shock you. Here's what Bowers describes. Charles was the first to return. He put the plate with the bread slices on the kitchen table. I could see that the lettuce and tomatoes had been lightly smeared with a light brown substance. Seconds later, Ted appeared in the kitchen. His erection was gone, and he was looking decidedly sheepish, perhaps even a trifle embarrassed. I stared at him curiously, and he pulled a face, hoping that Charles wouldn't notice. He pointed at the bread slices on the plate and then lightly patted his backside. And then, believe it or not, Laughton ate the sandwich. Ronald Reagan's obsession with young virgins. Ronald Reagan is often remembered more for his political career than his time in Hollywood, but back in the 1940s and 50s he was one of Tinseltown's leading men. But that's not all. One of the most cringe-inducing rumors about Reagan's Hollywood days comes from his co-star in the 1950 drama Louisa, Piper Laurie. She claims that the future GOP icon took her virginity when he was 39 years old, and she was just 18. But what happened next will shock you. In her memoir, Laurie writes that Reagan first seduced her on the set of their film Louisa, where he played her father. At first, Reagan seemed like a true gentleman. He even asked Laurie's mother for permission to take her on a date. Sounds charming, right? But instead of the glamorous evening Laurie had imagined, Reagan took both her and her mother to his house, where he cooked hamburger steak and salad. This is where it gets interesting. After dinner, things took a strange turn. Reagan led Laurie back to the bedroom. According to her, the actor was an insensitive show-off in bed. He bragged about how long he'd been erect, 40 whole minutes, and how much his condom had cost. But that's not all. Laurie also recounts that Reagan was far from a considerate lover. Not only did he fail to pleasure her, but when she mentioned her lack of an orgasm, his response was harsh and critical. According to her, he said, "There's something wrong with you that you should fix." Howard Hughes's extreme obsession with hygiene. Howard Hughes, the brilliant yet enigmatic tycoon, had a mind that worked in extraordinary ways. His achievements in aviation, film, and business were nothing short of legendary. But alongside his brilliance, there was a peculiar and relentless obsession that dominated his life: cleanliness. Imagine a man so consumed by the fear of germs that he would lock himself away in dark rooms for days, sometimes even weeks. Hughes turned his lavish homes into fortresses of solitude, meticulously sealed to keep out any potential contamination. The windows were often covered, creating a gloomy, almost eerie atmosphere, as if he were living in a perpetual twilight. Hughes's hand-washing routine was nothing short of ritualistic. Picture this. He would wash his hands repeatedly, scrubbing them until they were raw and sometimes even bleeding. It wasn't just a quick rinse, it was a painstaking process, as if he were trying to scrub away invisible threats. His fear of germs was so intense that he believed even the slightest contact could lead to illness or infection. But Hughes's obsession didn't stop at hand-washing. He went to extraordinary lengths to avoid human contact altogether. For instance, if he had to meet someone, he would often communicate through notes or intercom systems, avoiding face-to-face interactions. He would use tissues to touch objects and had a meticulous system for handling everyday items to ensure they remained uncontaminated. Hughes's peculiarities extended to his instructions to staff and associates. He once demanded that all canned food be meticulously washed and scrubbed before opening. Imagine the bewilderment of his staff as they followed these bizarre instructions, knowing that any deviation could trigger one of Hughes's infamous outbursts. Even when he was flying, Hughes couldn't escape his fears. His custom-built planes were designed with his germophobia in mind. He often flew alone or with minimal crew, ensuring that the aircraft remained as sterile as possible. The irony of an aviation pioneer afraid of the very air he conquered is striking, isn't it? Hughes's obsession with cleanliness and germs was a constant battle in his mind. Despite his towering intellect and achievements, he was trapped by his own fears. This relentless battle between his rational, inventive side and his irrational, obsessive side created a fascinating yet tragic figure. The man who soared to great heights in both the literal and metaphorical sense was, in many ways, grounded by his own mind. Mae West's astrology obsession. Mae West, a name synonymous with boldness and wit, was a star who dazzled both on and off the screen. But behind her larger-than-life persona and sultry quips lay a fascination that guided many of her choices: astrology. Mae West was deeply obsessed with astrology. This wasn't just a casual interest or a passing fancy, it was a central pillar of her decision-making process. Imagine a woman who, despite her confidence and unshakable self-assuredness, would not make any major life decisions without first consulting her astrologer. Whether it was a career move, a personal relationship, or even the timing of her day-to-day activities, the stars had to align for Mae. Her belief in astrology was so profound that it influenced her creative work. She wrote a play called The Constant Sinner, which was steeped in astrological themes. The narrative wasn't just a backdrop for her characters. It was interwoven with the celestial movements and zodiac signs that Mae believed so deeply in. This wasn't just art imitating life. It was life, love, and destiny dictated by the cosmos. Think about the confidence and assertiveness Mae West exuded in every role she played and every public appearance she made. Now imagine that same woman, with all her bravado, quietly consulting her astrologer in private, seeking guidance from the alignment of planets and stars. It's a striking contrast, isn't it? The idea that such a powerful figure would defer to celestial charts and predictions adds a fascinating layer to her already complex persona. Astrology wasn't just a hobby for Mae West, it was a way of life. She saw the patterns and signs as a roadmap, helping her navigate the tumultuous landscape of Hollywood and her personal life. This deep-rooted belief in the stars provided her with a sense of control and direction, a way to make sense of the often unpredictable nature of fame and fortune. Marlene Dietrich and collecting men's clothes. Beyond her screen persona, Marlene had an intriguing obsession that set her apart from her contemporaries, a fascination with men's clothing. This wasn't just a passing fancy or a quirky interest. It was a profound passion that influenced both her personal life and her public image. Dietrich didn't merely collect men's clothing, she wore it with a sense of ease and confidence that challenged the norms of her time. In an era when women were expected to adhere to strict fashion conventions, Dietrich's choice to don suits, trousers, and tailored shirts was nothing short of revolutionary. Picture her walking into a Hollywood event in a perfectly fitted tuxedo, her hair meticulously styled, and her makeup flawless. The image was striking and unforgettable, making a powerful statement about gender and fashion. She was one of the first women to popularize androgynous fashion in Hollywood. Her style wasn't about rejecting femininity, but about embracing a broader spectrum of identity. By wearing men's clothing, Dietrich played with societal expectations, blending masculinity and femininity in a way that was both provocative and liberating. She made it clear that clothing was an expression of self, not a strict adherence to gender norms. Dietrich's fascination with men's clothing went beyond the surface. She appreciated the craftsmanship, the structure, and the way these garments allowed her to move and present herself. Collecting these pieces became a hobby, a form of self-expression, and a way to assert her individuality. Imagine her private wardrobe, filled with an array of perfectly tailored suits, each piece carefully chosen and cherished. Her influence extended far beyond her personal collection. Dietrich's androgynous style inspired countless designers and fashion enthusiasts, paving the way for future generations to explore and embrace non-traditional fashion choices. She wasn't just a style icon. She was a pioneer who challenged the fashion industry's rigid boundaries. Peter Sellers' obsession against the color purple. Most people have typical fears like heights, snakes, or spiders, but Peter Sellers, he had a bizarre terror of the color purple. Now, Sellers' eccentricity wasn't the lovable, bumbling kind he often portrayed in his roles. It was far more chaotic and disturbing, making him a difficult person to be around. On film sets, Sellers was infamous for his explosive outbursts. Imagine him in a fit of rage, yelling at his wives, smashing dishes, and even brandishing a shotgun to vent his anger. His tantrums didn't stop there. He clashed with directors and producers, despite their higher status, and would often get lower-level staff fired if they crossed him. His erratic behavior was compounded by his vague racism and intense superstitions. One superstition in particular involved the famed director Vittorio De Sica. While they were working on After the Fox, Sellers saw De Sica berate a script girl for wearing purple. The director ominously declared that purple was the color of death. This statement profoundly impacted Sellers, who became convinced that the color purple could kill. From then on, Sellers' fear of purple dominated his actions. Any time he encountered the color, he'd fly into a panic, throwing tantrums and insisting it be removed. This irrational fear added yet another layer of unpredictability to an already volatile personality, making life around him a constant challenge. Charlie Chaplin's obsession with younger women. Charlie Chaplin, the legendary actor, filmmaker, and comedian, known for his iconic character, the Little Tramp, also had a much darker side to his personal life. Beyond the silver screen, Chaplin's relationships were the subject of much controversy, largely due to his well-known obsession with very young women. This fixation shaped his personal and professional life in ways that continue to spark debate. Chaplin's first marriage was to Mildred Harris in 1918, when he was 29 and she was just 16. Their relationship began when Harris was only 15, highlighting the significant age difference and Chaplin's preference for much younger partners. The marriage was short-lived, lasting only 2 years, but it set a precedent for Chaplin's future romantic endeavors. Following his divorce from Harris, Chaplin embarked on a series of relationships with teenage girls. His second marriage was to Lita Gray, who was 16 when they started their relationship and 18 when they married in 1924. Chaplin was 35 at the time. Their union was fraught with difficulties from the start. Gray's youth and inexperience clashed with Chaplin's controlling nature, leading to a tumultuous relationship that ended in a highly publicized and acrimonious divorce. The divorce proceedings revealed many sordid details about Chaplin's behavior, further cementing his controversial reputation. Despite the scandal, Chaplin continued to pursue young women. His third marriage was to Paulette Goddard, a rising star in Hollywood, who was 21 when they met, and Chaplin was 47. Though their marriage was kept relatively private and the age gap was not as stark as in his previous relationships, the pattern of significant age differences persisted. Chaplin's fourth and final marriage was to Una O'Neal, the daughter of playwright Eugene O'Neal. Una was just 18 when she married Chaplin, who was 54 at the time. This marriage, despite the age gap, proved to be the most stable and enduring of Chaplin's life. They remained together until Chaplin's death in 1977, and they had 8 children. Una's unwavering support and devotion seemed to bring Chaplin a semblance of the stability that had eluded him in his previous relationships. His preference for young women was not limited to his marriages. He was known to have numerous relationships with teenage girls throughout his life, often starting when the girls were still minors. This behavior, while not uncommon in the early 20th century, drew significant criticism and legal challenges. In one notable case, Chaplin faced a paternity suit from actress Joan Barry, who was 23 years younger than him. The case, which included allegations of coercion and manipulation, was widely covered by the media and further tarnished Chaplin's public image. The controversy surrounding Chaplin's relationships with young women has led to a complex legacy. On one hand, he is celebrated as a genius of early cinema, whose contributions to film and comedy are unparalleled. On the other hand, his personal life raises uncomfortable questions about the dynamics of power and exploitation. Chaplin's behavior reflects the broader societal attitudes of his time, where older men often pursued younger women, sometimes with dire consequences. Gloria Swanson's obsession with health and fasting. Gloria Swanson, one of Hollywood's most glamorous and enduring stars, was not only known for her striking beauty and acting prowess, but also for her intense dedication to health foods and fasting. Decades before the wellness industry became mainstream, Swanson was a pioneer in the realm of health and nutrition, turning her lifestyle into a fervent obsession that shaped her daily routines and public persona. Swanson's journey into the world of health foods and fasting began at a time when processed foods were becoming increasingly popular in America. Rejecting this trend, she delved into natural and organic eating habits, believing that what she consumed had a direct impact on her overall well-being and longevity. Her approach to diet was meticulous and uncompromising. She scrutinized every ingredient, ensuring that her meals were not only nutritious but also free from any artificial additives or preservatives. Her commitment to healthy foods extended beyond just eating organic produce. Swanson embraced a diet rich in raw vegetables, fruits, nuts, and seeds, long before such dietary choices became fashionable. She was particularly fond of juicing, often preparing fresh vegetable and fruit juices to maintain her energy and vitality. This dedication to a clean diet was not merely a fad for Swanson. It was a deeply ingrained lifestyle choice that she believed was essential for sustaining her health and beauty. In addition to her strict dietary habits, Swanson was a firm believer in the benefits of fasting. She would often embark on long fasts, abstaining from food for extended periods to cleanse her body and mind. These fasts were not just about physical health. Swanson saw them as a way to achieve mental clarity and spiritual renewal. Her fasting routines were rigorous, sometimes lasting several days, during which she would consume only water or freshly squeezed juices. This practice was unconventional and even controversial at the time, but Swanson was unwavering in her belief in its benefits. Swanson's obsession with health foods and fasting was also evident in her social interactions and public appearances. She often spoke about her dietary practices, sharing her knowledge and experiences with others. She became an advocate for healthy living, encouraging those around her to adopt similar habits. Her influence extended to her close circle of friends and colleagues in Hollywood, many of whom were inspired by her dedication and began to explore healthier lifestyles themselves. Her commitment to health was not without its challenges. Swanson faced skepticism and criticism from those who viewed her practices as extreme or unnecessary. However, she remained steadfast, confident in the knowledge that her choices were beneficial. Her dedication to health and wellness was a testament to her discipline and determination, qualities that also defined her illustrious career. Swanson's approach to health was holistic. She believed in the interconnectedness of physical, mental, and emotional well-being. This belief guided her lifestyle choices, from her diet and fasting routines to her emphasis on regular exercise and stress management. She practiced yoga and meditation, long before these practices became popular in the West, as part of her daily regimen to maintain balance and harmony in her life. Her obsession with health foods and fasting also influenced her work. Swanson often took on roles that reflected her personal beliefs, portraying characters who embodied strength, resilience, and a sense of well-being. Her off-screen persona, as a health-conscious and disciplined individual, became an integral part of her public image, distinguishing her from many of her contemporaries. At first, everyone would jump at the chance to be a Hollywood star, but the pressures of work and fame can be more than a human can bear. These stars couldn't quite deal with it. They came out of the other side of fame extremely different from how they went in. Judy Garland. She started off as Hollywood's darling, a sweet, innocent girl next door who could sing like an angel. She became famous at a young age, especially after starring as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Everyone adored her, but behind the scenes, her life was far from perfect. The studio system back then was brutal, especially for young stars like Judy. MGM, the studio that managed her career, controlled almost every part of her life. They told her how to look, what to wear, how much to weigh, and even what to eat. She was put on strict diets, sometimes just chicken soup or black coffee, and was even given pills to keep her energy up during long workdays, and then more pills to help her sleep at night. This constant pressure took a toll. Judy started relying on those pills, which eventually led to a lifelong struggle with substance abuse. Fame didn't make things easier either. She had to keep up this perfect image while dealing with exhaustion, self-doubt, and the unrealistic expectations of being a star. Over time, the stress and addiction changed her. That bright, carefree smile turned into something more forced, and her once vibrant personality became darker and more complicated. Her appearance also shifted. She went from looking fresh-faced and youthful to visibly tired and worn down, even at a young age. Despite everything, Judy kept performing and delivering incredible work, but her personal struggles were always there. She tried to stay strong, but fame and the pressures of Hollywood left her deeply scarred. It's heartbreaking because behind the glamour and talent was someone just trying to survive in an industry that treated her like a product instead of a person. Marlon Brando. He was young, handsome, and full of raw talent, a total game changer for acting in the 1950s. Movies like A Streetcar Named Desire and On the Waterfront made him a massive star, and his smoldering looks and bad boy charm had everyone swooning. But fame has a funny way of changing people, and Brando wasn't immune. At first, he loved the spotlight and all the perks that came with it, but as time went on, he started to hate the very industry that made him famous. He thought Hollywood was fake and shallow, and he didn't hold back from saying so. Brando's frustration with the system grew, and he began pulling away from the public eye. His personal life was just as messy as his relationship with fame. Brando became known for his eccentric behavior and chaotic lifestyle. He went from being one of the most sought-after stars to someone who didn't seem to care what anyone thought. His once chiseled physique changed drastically as he gained weight and stopped worrying about keeping up appearances. By the end of his career, he was barely recognizable as the Hollywood golden boy he once was. Brando also became more reclusive, choosing to live on a private island in Tahiti instead of mingling with the Hollywood crowd. He still acted occasionally, delivering iconic performances in movies like The Godfather and Apocalypse Now, but he did it on his own terms. In a way, Marlon Brando represents both the incredible highs and the isolating lows of fame. He started as a trailblazing star and ended as a man disillusioned by it all, retreating into his own world while still leaving behind a legacy that changed Hollywood forever. Rita Hayworth. She went from being a shy, ordinary girl to one of the most famous actresses of her time, known as the ultimate love goddess. With her flowing red hair, sultry looks, and undeniable screen presence, Rita captured the hearts of millions. But the person the public saw on screen wasn't who she really was. Before she became Rita Hayworth, she was Margarita Cancino, a reserved girl from a working-class family. When she entered Hollywood, the studios completely reinvented her. They changed her name, dyed her dark hair red, and even had her undergo painful electrolysis to alter her hairline so she'd look more glamorous. It worked. Her transformation turned her into a star, but it also stripped away much of her identity. Rita struggled with being treated as an object rather than a person. While the world admired her beauty, she felt trapped by it. She famously said, "Men fell in love with Gilda, but they wake up with me," referring to her iconic role in the movie Gilda. People expected her to be the confident, seductive character she played on screen, but in real life she was much quieter and more vulnerable. Her personal life was a roller coaster. She had a series of troubled marriages, including one to a prince, but none of them lasted. Fame and heartbreak led to her turning to alcohol, which only made things worse. Over time, her struggles began to show. The vibrant, magnetic star faded and she withdrew from the spotlight. Rita's story is a bittersweet reminder of how fame can build someone up and then tear them down. She was adored by millions, but behind the scenes, she was a woman searching for love, happiness, and a sense of self in an industry that only saw her as a beautiful face. Elizabeth Taylor. Starting as a sweet child actress in movies like National Velvet, she grew up on screen, captivating audiences with her violet eyes and timeless beauty. But as she transitioned into adulthood, fame didn't just change her. It transformed her into a bold, controversial, and unapologetically larger-than-life figure. Early on, Elizabeth was seen as classy and poised, the kind of star who seemed untouchable. But as her fame grew, so did her dramatic persona. She became known not just for her acting, but for her turbulent personal life, which often overshadowed her career. Elizabeth's love life was headline news. She married 8 times to 7 men, each relationship more talked about than the last. Her affair with Eddie Fisher, which broke up his marriage to Debbie Reynolds, made her one of the most scandalous stars of her time. Physically, Elizabeth changed as well. The slim, delicate beauty from her early years became more voluptuous, often dripping in diamonds and designer gowns. Her famous jewelry collection, which included gifts from her husbands, symbolized her love of luxury and excess. Over time, health problems and struggles with weight added to her transformation, giving her a different kind of presence, less about youthful beauty and more about commanding attention with sheer charisma. Emotionally, Elizabeth evolved from a shy young actress into a fiercely independent and outspoken woman. She openly battled addiction to alcohol and painkillers, something few stars of her era admitted. Later in life, she became an activist, using her fame to raise awareness for HIV/AIDS when it was still heavily stigmatized. Elizabeth Taylor's transformation was dramatic and multifaceted. She went from a quiet, picture-perfect star to a bold, defiant icon who lived her life on her own terms. Her changes weren't just skin-deep. They reflected a woman who refused to be boxed in, no matter how the world tried to define her. Joan Crawford. She started as a bright-eyed flapper in the 1920s, full of energy and charm, and became one of the most glamorous stars of the golden age of cinema. But the sweet, eager-to-please young woman she once was evolved into a hardened, fiercely ambitious, and often intimidating figure. Early in her career, Joan was known for her bubbly personality and fun-loving nature. She danced her way into Hollywood, starring in silent films and later talkies, where she played carefree, independent women. But as she climbed the ranks in Hollywood, she became obsessed with perfection and staying relevant, a necessity in an industry that's quick to discard aging actresses. Joan completely reinvented herself to maintain her star status. She transformed her look with dramatic makeup, striking hairstyles, and impeccable fashion, turning herself into a symbol of elegance and sophistication. But the pressure to remain perfect and in control took a toll on her personality. Friends and co-workers began to describe her as controlling and demanding, with little patience for mistakes. She developed a reputation for being difficult to work with, especially as she aged and felt her career slipping away. Her personal life also reflected her transformation. Joan adopted 4 children, presenting herself as the perfect mother to the public. However, her daughter Christina later wrote the explosive memoir Mommy Dearest, which painted Joan as an abusive and emotionally cold parent, obsessed with appearances and perfection. While some dispute the claims, it added another layer to the narrative of Joan's drastic change over the years. By the end of her career, Joan had gone from a carefree starlet to a fiercely guarded icon whose life revolved around maintaining her image. She retreated from the public eye, unwilling to let the world see her fade. Joan Crawford's transformation is a striking example of how fame, and the fear of losing it, can change someone entirely, both inside and out. Marilyn Monroe. Her transformation after fame is one of Hollywood's most well-known, and it's as tragic as it is striking. She started as Norma Jean Baker, a shy, unremarkable girl with a tough childhood. But when Hollywood discovered her, she was molded into the ultimate bombshell, a blonde, glamorous, and sensual woman who oozed confidence. At first, Marilyn seemed to embrace the change. She dyed her hair platinum blonde, perfected her signature breathy voice, and mastered her flirtatious on-screen persona. Movies like Gentlemen Prefer Blondes and Some Like It Hot turned her into a global icon, and audiences adored her. But behind the scenes, the transformation wasn't as easy as it seemed. Marilyn became trapped by the very image that made her famous. People expected her to always be the playful, sexy, carefree woman she portrayed on screen, but in reality, she was insecure and deeply sensitive. She desperately wanted to be taken seriously as an actress and tried to break free from her dumb blonde roles. However, Hollywood didn't see her as Norma Jean anymore. She was Marilyn Monroe, and that came with a specific set of expectations. Her physical transformation also took a toll. While she looked radiant on screen, she often struggled to maintain her figure, using crash diets and pills to stay in shape. Marilyn also developed a dependence on sleeping pills and other substances, which worsened her mental health issues. Over time, the cracks in her glamorous facade began to show. She became more reclusive, erratic, and visibly exhausted by the demands of fame. The once bright star who lit up every room now appeared haunted by her own success. By the time of her untimely death at just 36, Marilyn's transformation was complete. From a hopeful, wide-eyed young woman to a misunderstood and deeply troubled icon. Howard Hughes. With his sharp suits, movie star looks, and knack for innovation, Hughes was the kind of person everyone wanted to know. But fame and fortune drastically changed him, turning him into a mysterious, reclusive figure who was almost unrecognizable by the end of his life. In his prime, Hughes was larger than life. He produced blockbuster films like Hell's Angels and romanced some of Hollywood's most glamorous stars, including Katharine Hepburn, Ava Gardner, and Jean Harlow. He set aviation records, founded an airline, and seemed unstoppable. But beneath the success, he battled severe obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD, which worsened as he aged and gained more power. As Hughes's fame grew, so did his eccentric behavior. What started as harmless quirks became full-blown paranoia and reclusiveness. He would disappear for months, hiding in dark hotel rooms, refusing to see anyone, and obsessively washing his hands. He became terrified of germs and demanded bizarre cleanliness standards from anyone around him. Physically, Hughes changed dramatically. The once handsome and polished mogul became frail, with long, unkempt hair and nails. He stopped taking care of himself, living in isolation and relying on a small team of aides to cater to his increasingly strange demands. By the end of his life, Hughes was a shadow of the man he once was. He lived in secrecy, moving from one location to another, completely cut off from the outside world. The brilliant, daring innovator who once captured the world's attention had turned into a tragic figure consumed by his own fears and compulsions. Greta Garbo. Early on, she was the ultimate mystery, an alluring and silent star who captivated audiences with her dramatic roles in films like Camille and Grand Hotel. She was often referred to as the Swedish Sphinx, and her beauty and intensity made her one of the most iconic stars of the 1920s and 1930s. But as her fame grew, so did her desire to escape it. At first, Garbo seemed like the perfect starlet, graceful, poised, and breathtakingly beautiful. She was known for her deep voice and melancholic roles, and her ability to evoke emotion without saying much made her a Hollywood legend. But beneath the glamorous exterior, Garbo grew more and more dissatisfied with her life in the spotlight. She despised the constant media attention and found Hollywood's obsession with her image suffocating. By the mid-1930s, Garbo began to withdraw from the public eye. Despite being at the height of her career, she started rejecting offers to star in major films and became known for her reclusiveness. She went from being one of the most photographed women in the world to someone who refused to be seen, often hiding behind dark sunglasses and avoiding public appearances. Hollywood tried to keep her in the spotlight, but Garbo's desire for privacy grew stronger. She once famously said, "I want to be alone," and she got her wish. Physically, Garbo also changed. While she was once the embodiment of sophisticated beauty, her appearance evolved over the years. She stopped caring about the perfection Hollywood demanded from its stars. By the end of her career, she was rarely seen, and when she was, she had adopted a much more casual, less glamorous look. Her complete withdrawal from the industry and the public eye marked her transformation from a celebrated actress into a recluse who disappeared from view entirely. In many ways, Garbo's retreat from fame was a commentary on the pressures of celebrity, showing just how exhausting and isolating it could be for someone who wanted nothing more than to escape from the very thing that made her famous. Greta Garbo's life after fame was a perfect example of how the weight of constant attention and expectation can lead a person to leave it all behind. She went from being the most sought-after star in Hollywood to a mysterious private woman who lived her life completely out of the public eye. Bette Davis. Bette Davis went through a big change after becoming famous. In the beginning, she was this glamorous, elegant star who ruled Hollywood with her intense acting. But as she got older, things started to change for her. The industry didn't treat her the same way anymore, especially as she aged and the roles for women started to dry up. Instead of just accepting it, Bette became more outspoken. She didn't hide her frustration, and she became known for being a fierce and sometimes bitter personality. She spoke out about the unfairness of Hollywood, especially when it came to how they treated older actresses. She didn't hold back, and that's part of what made her so unique. Bette Davis's transformation wasn't just about how she looked. It was about how she fought back against an industry that didn't value her the way it once did. It was tough, but it showed how strong she was, even when things weren't going her way. Ava Gardner. When she first hit Hollywood, she was the definition of a sultry, glamorous bombshell, with her striking beauty and allure making her one of the biggest stars of her time. She had everything: looks, fame, and high-profile relationships with men like Frank Sinatra and Mickey Rooney. But as time went on, things started to take a toll on her. Ava's personal life was filled with struggles, especially her battles with alcohol and her turbulent relationships. These personal issues started to affect her career and her public image. The glamorous star we all admired began to change, both physically and emotionally. Her appearance started to reflect her inner turmoil. Ava's health declined, and she became less interested in keeping up with the Hollywood demands of always being picture perfect. Instead of the radiant, carefree woman she once was, She became more reclusive and troubled by her own battles. Despite her struggles, Ava still managed to hold on to some of her star power, but she was never quite the same as the stunning, glamorous woman she was in her prime. She was a symbol of how fame, combined with personal challenges, can transform someone completely. Kim Novak. Her story is one of those where you can see the pressure of fame getting to someone. When she started out, she was a striking beauty, cool, mysterious, and perfect for Hitchcock's Vertigo. Everyone loved her, and she was the classic Hollywood starlet, right? But as time went on, it wasn't all smooth sailing for her. Like so many stars, Kim started to feel the weight of maintaining that perfect Hollywood image. There was pressure to stay young and flawless, which led her to get some plastic surgery. Unfortunately, the changes didn't go as planned. People started to criticize her appearance, and that didn't sit well with her at all. Imagine having the world judge how you look constantly. It's tough. So, instead of sticking around for more Hollywood roles, Kim decided to step back. She got more reclusive and chose a quieter life away from the public eye. She wasn't interested in dealing with the pressure of living up to this idealized image of a star anymore. By the end of it, she'd completely distanced herself from the fame game. Kim's journey is one of those classic examples of how the pressure of staying in the spotlight can eventually push someone to walk away and just live their life without all the expectations that come with being a Hollywood star. Shirley Temple. As a little girl, Shirley was America's sweetheart. She had that innocent, charming personality and those famous curly locks, making her the star of the 1930s. She was the go-to for uplifting movies that helped people escape during tough times, and everyone loved her. But growing up in the spotlight wasn't as easy as it seemed. As she got older, Shirley found it hard to transition from the sweet child star image to an adult actress. The roles dried up, and she struggled to find the same kind of success in her teens. Hollywood wasn't kind to her as she aged, and it was tough for her to shake off the child star label. Eventually, Shirley stepped away from acting altogether and moved into a completely different career. She went into politics and became a U.S. ambassador, showing that she wasn't just a cute face, she had much more to offer. But even though she had a successful second career, the transition was hard. She had to live with the constant comparison to her younger self, which was tough for anyone. Her shift from one of the most beloved child stars to a more serious adult and diplomat shows how growing up in Hollywood can really change you. It's not easy to shed that image when the world has seen you as a certain type of person, and Shirley Temple's life really reflects how much pressure that can put on someone. Rita Hayworth. Rita was one of the biggest stars in the 1940s. She was known for her fiery red hair, stunning beauty, and mesmerizing dance moves. Films like Gilda cemented her as a sex symbol and one of Hollywood's most iconic stars. But as she got older, Rita faced the harsh realities of aging in an industry that prized youth and beauty above all. The pressure to maintain her perfect image took its toll on her. Rita, like many others, turned to plastic surgery to try to hold on to her youthful appearance. However, the surgeries didn't exactly go as planned, and her once gorgeous looks changed dramatically. Her face looked different, and her appearance became more artificial, which made her almost unrecognizable to the public. It wasn't just her looks that changed. Rita's career also suffered. She became known more for her transformation than her acting, and she eventually faded from the spotlight. Later in life, she even struggled with Alzheimer's disease, which added to the toll her career had taken on her. Rita Hayworth's story is a perfect example of how Hollywood's beauty standards, combined with the pressure to stay relevant, can lead stars to make drastic decisions about their appearance. It shows how, despite all the glamour and fame, the personal cost of trying to stay perfect in the spotlight can be high.
Without a doubt, Hollywood has its secrets. In the same vein, Hollywood stars have their own secret that they would rather have taken to the grave. However, some of these secrets found their way out and would leave even the most loyal of fans with their jaws open in pure shock and even terror. Some of these Hollywood stars had some twisted fetishes and pleasures that they enjoyed in the privacy of their own homes or secret places. Some of them will shock you, others will send shivers down your spine. It doesn't take a genius to know that one has to be daring and unconventional to be able to survive in Hollywood. But as early as the 1940s, several Hollywood icons have shown us just how daring they are. From falling in love with women half their age to marrying men over 2 decades older, this video tells the story of some of the most unconventional love and romances Hollywood has ever witnessed, proving once and for all that love indeed conquers all. But then again, not all of these stories have a happy ending. Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall. It all started in the 1940s when the 45-year-old actor Humphrey Bogart first set his eyes on Lauren Bacall on a movie set. It was at that moment that he made up his mind to pursue the 19-year-old actress at all costs. Unlike these days when the world embraces all kinds of relationships, the 1940s were a bit different and conventional. It was rare to see couples with decade-long age gaps, which was why Hollywood practically froze when Humphrey and Bogart and Lauren Hall fell madly in love with each other. The two met initially during the filming of To Have and Have Not in 1944. Lauren Bacall had just gotten her first lead role, and she was beyond elated. Her career was about to change, but she didn't know that her entire life was about to change as well. Lauren had seen Bogart in movies in the past, but she didn't see anything beyond his acting skills. As a matter of fact, when Lauren's friends tried to tease her about playing alongside Bogart, she would respond with, "Yuck." Under no circumstance did she feel anything more than professional respect for Bogart, but perhaps she was wrong. One of the most significant romances of her life was about to begin, and she had no idea. When they finally met on set in 1944, she found something incredibly curious. Bogart was not this disgusting old man she had laughed with her friends about. No, he was so much more. He was charming, kind, considerate, and had a very good sense of humor. Ironically, Bogart, on the other hand, became smitten by the 19-year-old actress the moment she stepped on set. He had seen a lot of beautiful women in his life, but there was something fascinating about Lauren that he couldn't quite put his finger on. She had a different type of beauty, one that appealed greatly to him. Her face looked like that of a goddess, and she had this cute innocence about her. Bogart was intrigued. On top of that, he could also see how talented she was. However, one small flaw was very evident. Lauren was extremely nervous on set, and Bogart, being the smitten man that he was, decided to help her. As the two got closer on set every passing day, Bogart would do all he could to ease Lauren's nerves. He would tell her jokes to calm her down, and little by little, Lauren began to get more confident, and a sudden realization hit her. Bogart was not so bad after all. Soon enough, Lauren decided to stop holding back, and she let Bogart in completely, and as a result, the trajectory of their relationship began to take a rather interesting turn. First, the two became really close friends, enjoying each other's company, talking for as long as they wanted, laughing, joking, and making jest. Then it began to morph into something a little more personal and intimate as the two began to have more and more alone times in Lauren's dressing room. Now, to the rest of the crew, something was going on, but perhaps it was just actor chemistry or something. They decided not to give it too much thought, because if they were being honest, the age gap between the two was mighty awkward, and they couldn't bring themselves to imagine a romance brewing between them. Even between Bogart and Lauren, their relationship was undefined, until one day Bogart did something that took Lauren's breath away. One day, after a long day on set, Lauren hurried to her dressing room to rest. Bogart followed her in, as he has always done before, where they would talk and laugh. But this time, Bogart had something else in mind. In the middle of their conversation, he gently leaned in and held Lauren's chin, bringing her lips to his, and in that moment, nothing else mattered. They had sealed their relationship. However, this was not a fairy tale story. There were a dozen stumbling blocks in the way. The crew was happy for them when they realized the couple was in love, but the film director, Howard Hawks, whose wife brought Lauren on set, was not happy with the romance, especially with a man almost thrice her age. On top of that, Bogart was still married to his then third wife, Method. But despite all, the relationship grew stronger, forcing Bogart to divorce her, and on May 21st, 1945, Bogart and Lauren tied the knot. A marriage and relationship that, although unconventional, became one of the strongest and most powerful in Hollywood. Charlie Chaplin and Una O'Neal. Plagued by loneliness and a victim of his own success, Charlie Chaplin was one of the most successful men in Hollywood, But deep down, there was a huge hole in his heart that he never thought would be filled until one day he met Una O'Neal. And right there and then, he knew he had found the one. It was the height of his career, and his success so far knew no bounds. Some may even say Charlie distracted himself by plunging into his work, and unknowingly, he was setting himself up for more and more successes, but he kept his aching heart to himself. But all that was about to change very soon. In the year 1942, Charlie attended a party hosted by Charles Laughton, a British actor and director. Somewhere on the other end of the spectrum, a young lady who was aspiring to become an actress attended the same party. Her name, Una O'Neal. Unlike a lot of other aspiring actresses who were looking to get into Hollywood for fame and recognition, Una was more into acting because of a burning passion for theater. She had been raised in an artistic family, and all her life, literature and theater were all she knew. She was beautiful, intelligent, and had a grace that caught attention whenever she walked in, but her mission at this party was simply to meet people who could help her career. Little did she know that fate had planned a lot more for her that evening. The room was fairly large, but from the other end, Chaplin's eyes caught something striking, and that was when it happened. He laid eyes on Una and became instantly captivated by her radiant presence. He had to meet her. He had to get to know her. And he did. She was more than he thought she was. Not just a pretty face, but she had a sort of depth that intrigued him. Despite a significant age difference, with Chaplin being 53 and Una just 17, their connection was undeniable. So soon after, they began spending time together, engaging in lively conversations and sharing laughter, ultimately forging a strong bond. Make no mistake, despite the connection between Chaplin and Una, they came from completely different backgrounds. While she came from a humble but artistic past, Chaplin was involved in political and wartime pasts and backlash, but despite all, the couple found solace in each other, and their union gave them joy. More and more people around the couple began to get aware of the relationship and connection between them, and a lot of thoughts were raised. Despite the significant age difference, people thought their relationship won't last. They were from different worlds and were known for different things. What could they possibly have in common, people thought? Chaplin was a seasoned entertainer, celebrated for his iconic character, the Tramp, and his work as a filmmaker. Una, on the other hand, was young and relatively unknown in the industry, possessing an innate charm and natural talent. Perhaps this was solely a transactional relationship that would soon end. But soon enough, Chaplin shut the mouths of naysayers once and for all. In 1943, Chaplin took the bold step and proposed to Una, and without even a moment's pause, she accepted, agreeing to become his fourth wife. As one may imagine, their union raised eyebrows and garnered considerable attention due to their age difference and the public perception of Chaplin's controversial personal life. Despite being very aware of all that was being said about their union, Chaplin and Una's relationship continued to thrive. As though to prove a point, the couple went ahead to have 8 children together, raising a large and vibrant family. Over the years, Chaplin and Una built a sanctuary for their family in Switzerland, where they could retreat from the pressures of Hollywood and enjoy a quieter, more private life. They found solace in the beauty of nature and the bonds they forged with their children. Una became a pillar of strength and stability for Chaplin, standing by his side during his later years when he faced accusations and controversies. Sadly, Charlie Chaplin finally passed away on December 25, 1977, at the age of 88. He died of natural causes in his sleep at his home in Corsier-sur-Vevey, Switzerland. The cause of death was recorded as a stroke, but even though Chaplin's death marked the end of an era in the entertainment industry, Una was devastated and threw herself into a state of mourning that shook the foundations of Hollywood. She noted on several occasions that Chaplin was the love of her life and she was lost without him. Una eventually passed on too at the age of 66 due to cancer, Frank Sinatra and Mia Farrow. One warm evening in July when Mia attended one of Frank's electrifying performances. She'd been filming a movie nearby and just needed some time to cool off and enjoy herself. But as she stood there amidst the small crowd watching Frank, how he commanded the stage, how his voice wafted across the room in a titillating and almost sexy way, something shifted in her. To her, this was more than just a performance, it was a cry to her soul. For the entire duration of his performance, Mia couldn't take her eyes off Frank, and she couldn't shake off the feeling of being swept off her feet by his powerful performance. Frank, on the other end, despite seeing a sizable crowd, seemed to notice Mia, and he too was swept away by her beauty and grace. But he needed to focus on his performance. It was a huge battle trying not to be distracted by Mia's lingering but welcome gaze. As soon as the show was over, Mia and Frank got introduced to each other backstage, and the spark between them was instantaneous. At the time, Frank was 49 years old and Mia was only 19, but they could not deny that the feelings brewing in each other were not ordinary. Their personalities merged with each other more, and the bond they created was stronger than anything they had ever felt. Over the next few months, Frank and Mia began to spend more and more time with each other. Their shared love for art and music formed the foundations of their relationship. They would talk for hours despite their age difference. They were like best of friends, maybe a bit more than that even. Soon enough, amidst all the intimate conversations they shared, late-night walks and enchanting dinners at glamorous venues like the Sands Hotel's Copa Room, deeper feelings began to brew, feelings bigger than even they could handle. Not long after, a few people around them began to sniff out what was going on between them, but none of these mattered much until the media got a hold of their relationship. The news spread like wildfire. The media and the public at large were intrigued by the relationship, and as such had a lot of things to say about them. For one, the contrast between Frank's established status in the entertainment industry and Mia's fresh-faced innocence fueled endless speculation and gossip. Some said Mia was positioning herself to be a benefactor of his money or use his connections to get more roles. Other critics dismissed their relationship as a passing fling, while some others simply scoffed at the obvious age difference and condemned their relationship on those grounds. In the heat of all these speculations that would probably break an average couple, Frank and Mia decided to shock everyone completely. On July 19, 1966, the couple tied the knot at the Sands Hotel. It was almost as though the entire Hollywood was out of breath. Everyone was shocked and speechless. Not many people believed that the relationship would stand the test of time. Then, a lot of people became believers in their love. But another larger group of critics still believed the marriage wouldn't last. And to be fair, the odds were on the critics' side. In the past, Frank had already been married and divorced 3 whole times. This was his 4th marriage. To everyone else, it would end up like the last 3 did. Mia's youth and innocence only intensified the public's fascination with their union. However, amidst the media frenzy, Frank and Mia found solace in each other's arms and nurtured a genuine connection. Throughout their relationship, Frank and Mia seemed to be shoving their love in the faces of their critics. They traveled to various enchanting destinations, escaping the relentless media attention. They frequented Palm Springs, a desert oasis where they enjoyed quiet retreats in luxurious estates surrounded by palm trees and stunning mountain views. The couple also embarked on romantic getaways to Europe, strolling hand in hand along the charming streets of Rome, Paris, and Venice. However, despite the happiness they found in each other's company, Frank and Mia's relationship was not without its challenges. First, being very successful in their respective careers, they began to face its pressures because due to their jobs, they often had to spend time apart. Frank with touring and Mia pursuing her acting ambitions. On top of all that, Frank's tumultuous lifestyle and connections with powerful individuals raised eyebrows and fueled rumors of infidelity. Ultimately, the strain proved too much, and sadly, Frank and Mia decided to part ways. They announced their separation in 1968, after less than 2 years of marriage. Although their love story came to an end, the impact of their relationship lingered in the memories of those who witnessed their union. Aristotle Onassis and Jackie Kennedy. He was 62 years old, and she was 39, but it was the perfect match. Aristotle Onassis, immensely rich through his shipping business, had a charismatic presence and the owner of a private island. Jackie Kennedy, the widow of John F. Kennedy, simply needed solace after the tragic events at Dallas. Several times in the past, the two had crossed paths, but nothing really stuck, and there wasn't enough time to explore the depths of their personalities. But all that changed when Jackie decided one day to visit an island. It was a sunny afternoon. Jackie first set foot on an island, accompanied by her sister, Lee Radziwill. The purpose of their visit was supposed to be brief. just to get away from all the prying eyes of the public and relax in solitude and tranquility amidst the waters and fragrant olive trees. But she had no idea that her stay on this island would make her cross paths with one of the most intriguing men she had ever met. Just as she was exploring the island, she ran into him, Aristotle. Now the two had met each other before at social gatherings. They had talked before, but the conversations had been brief, polite, and filled with a bit of formality. But here on the island, perhaps it was the beauty of nature all around them, or the seclusion the island provided, but their conversations took a deeper root now, deepening their connection. Even Jackie had to confess to herself that although she had been fascinated by Aristotle before now, it was deeper and unlike anything she had ever felt before. As the days turned into weeks, Aristotle and Jackie enjoyed each other's company more than they had ever done before. They would walk along the secluded beaches, sharing their thoughts and dreams, and this formed the basis of the interest between them. Aristotle, being older and more experienced, had a life filled with lots of victories and challenges, so he was in a great position to offer Jackie some deep wisdom and a listening ear to her own problems. She was also a great companion for him despite her grief. Both of them had longed for each other, and here they were, with each other. It was a perfect stroke of luck. Their love story flourished in the Mediterranean paradise, shielded from the prying eyes of the world. The island became a sanctuary for their burgeoning romance, a place where they could escape the pressures of their public lives. Jackie found solace in the warm embrace of Aristotle, while he reveled in her intellect, grace, and timeless beauty. Soon enough, the press, as they always do, got hold of this new relationship, and speculations and fascination were the order of the day. Many were taken aback by Jackie's choice to enter into a romance with a man of such prominence and wealth. Some saw it as a betrayal of the memory of her late husband, while others viewed it as a means to secure her future. But in 1968, to show how unbothered they were about all these speculations flying around, Aristotle proposed to Jackie, offering her the promise of a new beginning. However, just when the world could almost hear wedding bells, something terrible happened. Jackie, seemingly from nowhere, suddenly decided that marrying Aristotle was not the right move for her. All wedding plans were halted, and as one may imagine, the media and public were speechless as a result of her sudden decision, a decision that marked a turning point in their relationship. Just like that, the romance brewing between the two ended, but despite that, they managed to remain friends, supporting each other and continually maintaining high respect and admiration for one another. Harrison Ford and Callista Flockhart. Harrison Ford has a certain rugged handsomeness about him, and after playing a lot of iconic roles in his career, he could have any woman he wanted, but the moment Callista Flockhart crossed his path, it was the beginning of the end of his search. On the set of a movie in 2002, Harrison and Callista met for the first time ever, and it was love at first sight. Harrison, already an established actor with a long list of accolades, was captivated by Callista's charm and talent. Callista, who had risen to fame through her role in the hit TV series Ally McBeal, was drawn to Harrison's undeniable charisma and his ability to bring depth to every character he portrayed. As they worked together, a genuine connection blossomed between Harrison and Callista. They discovered shared passions and values, and their friendship evolved into something deeper. Harrison, having experienced the ups and downs of love and relationships, found comfort and fascination in Callista's down-to-earth nature and radiant spirit. Callista, too, loved Harrison's wisdom, kindness, and unwavering support. They were all they'd prayed for and were lucky to find each other. Their relationship took root amidst the glittering backdrop of Hollywood, where rumors and media attention often threatened to overshadow the genuine love they shared. However, Harrison and Callista remained steadfast in their commitment to each other, shielding their romance from the prying eyes of the public. In 2009, after 7 years of dating, Harrison and Callista took their love to the next level and tied the knot in a private ceremony. The event was a reflection of their desire to keep their love story personal and intimate, away from the glitz and glamour of the industry. Over the years, Harrison and Callista cultivated a strong and enduring bond. They faced challenges together, supporting each other through professional commitments and personal triumphs. Despite their demanding careers, they made time for family, cherishing moments with their children and creating a loving home filled with laughter and joy. In the end, one could say that all of these women were go-getters who fell in love and didn't allow any naysayer to sway them. Beneath the shimmering surface of Hollywood's golden age, a labyrinth of secrets and scandals lay hidden. Among the glittering stars and cinematic masterpieces, the private lives of Tinseltown's finest were often shrouded in mystery and intrigue. But sometimes the veil would slip, revealing tales so unexpected and controversial, they seemed ripped from the pages of a screenplay. Take, for instance, the luminous Ava Gardner, whose tumultuous love affair with Frank Sinatra captivated the public. Or the legendary Spencer Tracy, whose off-screen life was as complex and compelling as his on-screen performances. These were not isolated incidents, but part of a larger narrative, a tapestry woven with hidden liaisons, secret children, and forbidden love. In this video, we peel back the curtain on Hollywood's most closely guarded secrets, the children born out of the spotlight, away from the prying eyes of the press and the public. From the whispered rumors of clandestine pregnancies to the undeniable truths that emerged years later, these stories reveal a different side of the stars we thought we knew. We'll explore the lives of those who grew up in the shadows of fame, their existences marked by a legacy they had no part in choosing. These are not just tales of scandal and sensation, but of real people searching for identity and belonging in the aftermath of decisions made long before their time. The early days of Hollywood. In the nascent days of Hollywood, a burgeoning film industry began to cast its first shadows on the silver screen, giving rise to a new breed of American royalty, the movie star. This era, marked by the silent film age and the transition to talkies, was a time of innovation, glamour, and boundless possibilities. Yet, beneath its glittering surface, the personal lives of its stars were often mired in complexity and secrecy, particularly when it came to matters of the heart and family. One of the most emblematic figures of this era was Clara Bow, known as the It Girl, who embodied the carefree, vivacious spirit of the Roaring Twenties. Bow's on-screen persona captivated millions, but her off-screen life was fraught with challenges, not least of which were the rumors that swirled around her personal relationships and the children she was rumored to have had out of wedlock. While no concrete evidence exists to confirm these children, the speculation around Bow's private life underscores the intense scrutiny and moral policing faced by female stars of the time. The early Hollywood studio system, with its rigid control over actors' images and personal lives, played a significant role in shaping the narrative around its stars. Studios went to great lengths to craft public personas for their actors that aligned with the moral standards of the day, often at the expense of the stars' true selves. This led to a culture of secrecy and double lives, where stars like Bow were forced to navigate their personal affairs in the shadows, away from the prying eyes of the press and moral watchdogs. The case of Bow is not isolated. Other stars of the era, such as Louise Brooks and Alma Rubens, faced similar challenges. Brooks, known for her iconic role in Pandora's Box, and Rubens, a silent film actress whose career was marred by addiction, both had rumored affairs and children out of wedlock. These stories, often buried beneath layers of studio-manufactured publicity, reveal a pattern of hidden relationships and the lengths to which stars went to maintain their public image. The societal norms of the early 20th century, which stigmatized children born outside of marriage, added another layer of complexity to these situations. The children of these liaisons, if they existed, were often raised in secrecy or given up for adoption, their paternity shrouded in mystery. This practice was not limited to Hollywood, but was reflective of broader societal attitudes towards illegitimacy and the sanctity of the traditional family unit. The impact of these hidden relationships and their resulting offspring rippled through the lives of those involved. For the stars, it meant a constant balancing act between their public personas and private realities, often leading to personal turmoil and, in some cases, the end of careers. For the children, it meant growing up with a secret legacy, their identities shaped by the circumstances of their birth and the societal stigma attached to it. The studio system's secrets. In the golden age of Hollywood, the studio system wielded unparalleled influence over the careers and personal lives of its stars. This era, characterized by its tight control over the public images of actors, also bore witness to one of the most poignant and carefully concealed stories of illicit love and hidden lineage, the story of Loretta Young, Clark Gable, and their daughter, Judy Lewis. Loretta Young, an actress of ethereal beauty and profound talent, was a prominent figure in Hollywood's studio system. Her career spanned from silent films through the golden age of cinema, earning her critical acclaim and a devout following. Clark Gable, known as the King of Hollywood, was the epitome of masculine charm and one of the era's most bankable stars. Their paths crossed professionally on the set of The Call of the Wild in 1935, leading to an affair that would become one of Hollywood's most closely guarded secrets. The affair resulted in Young's pregnancy, a situation fraught with potential scandal that could have ended both actors' careers. In an era when the moral clauses in studio contracts dictated the personal lives of Hollywood stars, Young's pregnancy was a ticking time bomb. With meticulous planning and the complicity of a few trusted individuals, Young disappeared from the public eye, citing illness, while she was, in fact, pregnant. Judy Lewis was born on November 6, 1935, in Venice, California. To protect her and Gable's careers and maintain her public image, Young placed Judy in an orphanage, only to adopt her months later in a well-orchestrated move designed to avoid scandal. This act of subterfuge was a testament to the lengths stars had to go to preserve their standing in the unforgiving Hollywood landscape. Judy grew up unaware of her true parentage, although rumors and whispers followed her throughout her childhood and adolescence. The resemblance to Gable was undeniable, with her ears being a particularly telling feature, leading Young to have Judy undergo surgery to make them less prominent. Despite these measures, the truth about Judy's father remained an open secret in Hollywood, known by many but publicly acknowledged by none. The relationship between Young and her daughter was complex and fraught with unspoken truths. It wasn't until Judy was an adult that Young confirmed her father's identity, a revelation that reshaped Judy's understanding of her own identity and her place in the world. The impact of this secret on Lewis was profound, affecting her sense of self and her relationships with both her mother and the father she never knew. Love affairs in the spotlight. The story of Ingrid Bergman and Roberto Rossellini is a tale of passion, art, and scandal that shook the foundations of Hollywood's golden age and challenged the moral compass of the era. Bergman, a Swedish actress renowned for her luminous beauty and profound talent, had captivated American audiences with her performances in films such as Casablanca and Gaslight, for which she won her first Academy Award. Rossellini, an Italian film director, was a leading figure in the neorealism movement, known for his raw and authentic portrayal of post-war Italy. Their union was not just a merging of two cinematic worlds, but also a love affair that defied conventions and sparked international controversy. Their story began in the late 1940s when Bergman, then married to Dr. Petter Lindstrom, wrote a letter to Rossellini expressing her admiration for his work and her desire to make a film with him. This correspondence led to Bergman's starring role in Stromboli, 1950, directed by Rossellini. During the production of the film, their professional relationship blossomed into a romantic affair, a development that would have profound personal and professional repercussions. The affair became public knowledge when Bergman became pregnant with Rossellini's child. In an era when Hollywood's moral code was strictly enforced and the personal lives of its stars were subject to public scrutiny, the revelation of their relationship was scandalous. Bergman, who had been revered as a symbol of grace and virtue, was now vilified in the press, condemned by the public, and even denounced on the floor of the United States Senate for immoral conduct. The birth of their son, Renato Roberto Giusto Giuseppe Rossellini, in 1950, and later the twins Isabella and Ingrid Rossellini, only intensified the scandal. Bergman's marriage to Lindstrom ended in divorce, and she married Rossellini in 1950. However, the damage to her public image was significant. Bergman was forced to leave Hollywood and would not return to the American screen for several years. The relationship between Bergman and Rossellini and the birth of their children marked a significant moment in Hollywood history. It challenged the industry's and society's expectations of female stars, highlighting the double standards applied to women's personal and professional lives. Bergman's career, although temporarily derailed, eventually recovered. She went on to win 2 more Academy Awards, proving that talent could overcome scandal. The children of Bergman and Rossellini grew up in the shadow of this controversy, but carved out their own paths. Isabella Rossellini became a successful actress and model, while Ingrid Rossellini pursued a career in academia. Renato Rossellini, though less in the public eye, also made his mark away from the glare of the scandal that had surrounded his birth. The rock and roll era. The affair between Eddie Fisher and Elizabeth Taylor is one of Hollywood's most notorious scandals, emblematic of the changing social mores and the increasing scrutiny of celebrity personal lives in the post-war era. Fisher, a popular singer, and Taylor, a film star of unparalleled beauty and talent, found themselves at the center of a media storm that would have lasting repercussions on their careers and personal lives, particularly impacting Fisher's family with Debbie Reynolds. Eddie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds were America's sweethearts, their marriage seemingly a fairy tale union of 2 beloved entertainers. They had 2 children, Carrie and Todd Fisher, completing the picture of domestic bliss. However, the stability of their marriage was shattered by Fisher's affair with Elizabeth Taylor, who was then the widow of Fisher's best friend, Mike Todd. The affair not only ended Fisher's marriage to Reynolds, but also ignited a public scandal that dominated headlines and captivated the American public. The impact of the affair on Fisher's children with Reynolds was profound and multifaceted. Carrie Fisher, who would later achieve fame as an actress, writer, and Hollywood icon in her own right, spoke openly about the pain and confusion the scandal caused her as a child. The very public nature of her parents' divorce and her father's subsequent marriage to Taylor placed Carrie and her brother Todd in an unwelcome spotlight, subjecting them to public scrutiny and media speculation at a young age. The affair and its fallout marked a significant moment in the evolution of celebrity culture. It highlighted the growing power of the media to shape public perceptions of stars and underscored the vulnerability of celebrity marriages to public and press intrusion. Fisher's career suffered in the aftermath of the scandal, with his public image tarnished by his role in the breakup of his marriage to Reynolds. Taylor, on the other hand, continued to thrive professionally, her career seemingly impervious to the scandal, though she faced public censure for her role in the affair. The relationship between Fisher and Taylor was short-lived, ending in divorce in 1964. However, the legacy of their affair lingered, affecting the personal dynamics within their blended family for years to come. Carrie Fisher's relationship with her father was strained, a theme she would explore in her writing and interviews, offering insight into the complex nature of familial bonds in the aftermath of public scandal. The Golden Age's hidden stories. Spencer Tracy's career spanned over 3 decades, during which he became one of Hollywood's most respected actors. His on-screen chemistry with Katharine Hepburn, with whom he made 9 films, is legendary. Off-screen, Tracy's life was intensely private, marked by struggles with alcoholism and a complex relationship with Hepburn that was both a profound partnership and a source of endless speculation. Tracy was married to Louise Treadwell, and together they had 2 children, John and Susie. However, his relationship with Hepburn, which began after his marriage, was an open secret in Hollywood. Despite never divorcing Treadwell, Tracy and Hepburn maintained a relationship until his death in 1967. The nature of their relationship, conducted away from the public eye, has been the subject of much discussion, with many admirers and biographers noting the depth of their connection and the sacrifices both made to maintain it. Regarding the speculation surrounding Tracy's private life and the possibility of children born out of wedlock, it's crucial to approach this topic with caution. Unlike other Hollywood figures whose personal lives became public through revelations or acknowledgments, Tracy's story remains shrouded in the privacy he so fiercely protected. There are no confirmed accounts of children born outside his marriage to Treadwell, and much of what is speculated comes from a place of rumor rather than documented fact. The culture of Hollywood's golden age played a significant role in shaping the narratives around its stars. The studio system, with its emphasis on controlling the public images of its actors, often led to a dissonance between the public personas and private lives of its biggest names. Tracy, like many of his contemporaries, navigated this divide, maintaining a level of privacy that has left many aspects of his life open to interpretation and speculation. Scandals behind the silver screen. Ava Gardner and Frank Sinatra's relationship was the stuff of Hollywood legend, a union that combined beauty, talent, and tumult in equal measure. Gardner, known for her stunning looks and formidable acting prowess, and Sinatra, a singer of unparalleled talent whose career was experiencing a downturn when they first became involved, were both massive stars in their own right. Their relationship began in the late 1940s and quickly became one of the most talked-about romances of the era. The pressures facing stars of Hollywood's golden age were immense. The studio system exerted significant control over actors' careers and personal lives, often dictating not just the roles they played, but whom they were seen with and how they conducted their private affairs. For Gardner and Sinatra, this meant their relationship was subject to intense scrutiny, not just from studio heads, but from the public and the press. Rumors of a pregnancy emerged at a time when both Gardner and Sinatra were under considerable public attention. Gardner's marriage to Sinatra, her third and his second, was marked by passionate highs and devastating lows, with both parties' careers and personal demons often clashing. The rumored pregnancy has been a point of speculation for biographers and fans alike, seen as a potential turning point in their tumultuous relationship. However, without concrete evidence or confirmation from Gardner or Sinatra themselves, the story remains part of the larger narrative of their storied romance. The impact of such speculation on Gardner in particular highlights the double standards and gendered expectations placed on women in Hollywood. While male stars often faced less criticism for their romantic entanglements, women were scrutinized and judged more harshly. Gardner, already known for her independent spirit and resistance to the studio system's attempts to control her, would have been acutely aware of the potential fallout from any confirmation of a pregnancy outside of marriage, even within the context of her marriage to Sinatra. Their relationship and the rumored pregnancy must be understood within the context of the time. The early 1950s were a period of transition in Hollywood, with the studio system beginning to decline and the rise of tabloid journalism. The personal lives of stars became fodder for public consumption in a way that had not been seen before, with Gardner and Sinatra among the first to experience the full force of this new celebrity culture. Love, secrecy, and legacy. Leslie Howard's contribution to the golden age of cinema is undeniable. His performances, characterized by a blend of charisma and elegance, left an indelible mark on Hollywood and the international film community. However, Howard's life off-screen was as compelling as his on-screen personas, marked by his involvement in the political and social upheavals of his time, including rumored activities in espionage during World War II. His untimely death in 1943, when the plane he was traveling in was shot down by German forces, added a layer of intrigue and tragedy to his legacy. Ronald Howard, born in 1918, was Leslie Howard's only son with his wife, Ruth Evelyn Martin. Growing up as the son of one of the era's most celebrated actors, Ronald faced the immense challenge of forging his path in the shadow of a towering figure. The expectations set by Leslie Howard's success and the public's fascination with his life and mysterious death were formidable pressures for Ronald. Ronald Howard pursued an acting career, appearing in numerous films and television shows from the 1940s through the 1970s. Perhaps his most notable role was as Sherlock Holmes in the 1954 television series Sherlock Holmes, where he brought the iconic detective to life with a performance that echoed the charm and intelligence his father was known for. Despite this and other successes, Ronald's career did not reach the same heights as his father's, a fact that highlights the difficulties of living up to a legendary legacy. The challenges Ronald faced were not just professional, but personal. Growing up in the aftermath of his father's death, with the accompanying speculation and intrigue surrounding Leslie Howard's wartime activities, Ronald had to navigate a world that was forever changed by loss. The public's enduring interest in Leslie Howard meant that Ronald's achievements were often viewed through the lens of his father's legacy, a comparison that can overshadow individual accomplishments. The new Hollywood movement. Arnold Schwarzenegger's journey from Mr. Universe to Hollywood megastar and then to the Governor of California is a tale of ambition, discipline, and unparalleled public success. However, in 2011, a personal revelation emerged that presented a starkly different narrative, one that highlighted the vulnerabilities even the most controlled public figures face. The disclosure of Schwarzenegger's paternity of Joseph Baena, born to the family's housekeeper, Mildred Patricia Patty Baena, was a moment of profound personal and public reckoning for Schwarzenegger. The revelation came at a time when Schwarzenegger's public image was that of a successful action hero, a dedicated public servant, and a family man. Married to Maria Shriver, a journalist and member of the Kennedy family, Schwarzenegger's personal life was as much a part of his public persona as his professional achievements. The news of his affair and the existence of a son born out of wedlock was a jarring departure from the narrative that had been carefully curated over decades. Joseph Baena's birth in 1997 and the subsequent revelation of his paternity more than a decade later brought to light the complex realities behind Schwarzenegger's public facade. The affair and the secrecy surrounding Joseph's paternity caused a significant media storm, leading to Schwarzenegger and Shriver's separation. This personal crisis unfolded in the public eye, offering a glimpse into the challenges faced by those living under the scrutiny of public attention. For Joseph Baena, the revelation of his paternity was a life-altering moment. Growing up, Baena's resemblance to Schwarzenegger was noticeable, yet the truth of his lineage was not publicly acknowledged until Schwarzenegger's term as governor was coming to an end. The public disclosure thrust Baena into the spotlight, a position that comes with its own set of challenges and opportunities. Despite the initial controversy, Schwarzenegger took responsibility for his actions and has since been an active part of Baena's life. Baena has navigated his path with a notable grace, pursuing his education and showing a keen interest in bodybuilding, echoing his father's own beginnings. His relationship with Schwarzenegger has grown stronger over the years, with the two often seen sharing moments of their lives on social media, from gym workouts to celebrating graduations.
He had the type of eyes you could get lost in, a voice that could cradle you to sleep,
Mr. Joshua.
a face you can stare at forever, and his charisma swallowed up all the attention in the room. You may remember him from films like Walk, Don't Run, Charade, and Father Goose, and if you do, you'd know he was a lady magnet. His female co-stars all wanted a slice of him, and his rugged looks had his female fans fawning. Ladies and gentlemen, Cary Grant. Timeless style icon. When Cary Grant walks into a room, everyone just stops. He doesn't need to say a word, doesn't have to make a big show. Just the way he's dressed tells you everything. He'll be in one of those perfect suits, the kind that looks like it was tailored just for him, hugging his shoulders and fitting like a glove. No loud colors or crazy patterns, just classic black or navy, maybe a gray that looks like it belongs in a vintage ad, but somehow he stands out more than anyone else there. Now, as you can imagine, women adored Cary Grant's style because it was a perfect blend of sophistication and subtlety, something that stood out without trying too hard. They loved that he always looked impeccable, whether he was on the big screen or out on the town, yet he never seemed like he was showing off. When women saw him in that famous gray suit from North by Northwest, it wasn't just the suit they noticed, it was how effortlessly he wore it. He looked polished, powerful, and completely at ease, and that confidence in his appearance made him endlessly appealing. But it wasn't only about his suits. Women loved the way he could look just as attractive in something casual. In To Catch a Thief, his Riviera wardrobe, simple button-up shirts, lightweight slacks, and those classic sunglasses had women swooning because he looked like the kind of man who didn't need to overthink his style. The way he looked so at home in everything he wore made women feel he was a man they could see themselves beside, whether at a high-end party or a relaxed seaside escape. And then there were his evening looks. Women couldn't get enough of him in a tuxedo, like in An Affair to Remember. They noticed the details, the perfectly fitted jacket, the slightly undone look of his bow tie that gave him this touch of rebellious charm. Grant didn't come off as stiff or formal. He looked as if he could laugh and flirt all night while still being the most dashing man in the room. Women found that irresistible because he didn't just look good, he made the people around him feel good too. His style wasn't just about clothes, it was about making everyone around him feel they were part of something special, something timeless. The ultimate gentleman. Today, gentlemen open car doors, pay for dates, or pull out seats for the lady. But Grant was the original pioneer of being a gentleman, and you didn't even have to meet him in real life to know that. When you think of his movies, there's no doubt that Cary was such a gentleman, and so it's not a surprise that ladies flocked to him. In movies, he played roles that highlighted not just his charisma, but his amazingly magnetic charm. Not only that, but he was also genuinely respectful and courteous. Think about An Affair to Remember. Grant's character, Nicky, could have easily been just another smooth talker, but he wasn't. Instead, he treated Deborah Kerr's character, Terry, with such warmth and respect. He didn't rush her or push his agenda. He let the romance grow naturally, and that patience was everything. And even though it was just a movie, women dared to believe he was that charming in real life. And just as they thought, off-screen he was just as much of a gentleman. Cary was known for being respectful and considerate of everyone, especially his female co-stars. Take Ingrid Bergman in Notorious, for instance. She once talked about how Grant made her feel comfortable and protected on set, even during intense scenes. That famous kiss scene, which goes on for what feels like forever, it was done in a way that never made her feel uncomfortable. He was attentive to her boundaries and focused on ensuring they worked as a team. Women found this so refreshing because, let's face it, not every Hollywood actor took that kind of care. And it wasn't just his co-stars, he was like this with his fans too. There's a story about a young fan who ran into him in a restaurant. Instead of brushing her off, he chatted with her, making her feel like she was the star. He'd write back to fans too, in thoughtful notes that showed he genuinely cared. It wasn't an act, he was simply respectful and thoughtful to everyone he met, whether they were famous or just everyday admirer. Women noticed and they loved him for it because Cary Grant wasn't just playing the gentleman, he actually was one. His sensual appeal. Somehow, Cary trapped hundreds of women in his aura and appeal. Good-looking, smooth, and charming, but according to the ladies, there was something about him that made you want to take him to bed. So here's the thing about Cary Grant. He wasn't just good-looking or smooth. The guy had this crazy romantic pull that made everyone fall head over heels. Film critic Pauline Kael once called him the man from Dream City. Because unlike other Hollywood guys, he wasn't always chasing after women. Instead, they were usually chasing him, and that added this whole new level of sex appeal. Especially in his later movies when his co-stars were younger, you'd see them practically throwing themselves at him while he just stood there, cool as ever. And here's what really made him different. He wasn't the aggressive, forceful lover type. He was more of the ideal romantic partner, the kind of guy who didn't need to take charge to be attractive. A scholar named James Naramore explained it perfectly. He said Grant was a romantic ideal precisely because he didn't push or control the romance. He'd let the women lead sometimes, and that made him stand out. It's like he wasn't trying to prove anything. He was just there, so charming that women couldn't help themselves. You can especially see this in his comedies. Take Bringing Up Baby, where Katharine Hepburn is constantly dragging his character into the wildest situations. Grant doesn't try to control her or fight back. He just goes with it, letting her be the whirlwind. It's hilarious, and it makes their whole romance feel different and so much more interesting. He wasn't just sitting there making the moves. He was letting her take the lead, and that kind of role reversal was pretty rare back then. That's why women found him so irresistible. His characters made it okay for the woman to have the upper hand, to go after what she wanted, and that was new. With Grant, the romance felt real, fun, and modern because he was always open to letting his co-star shine. Women could imagine themselves in those roles, as the ones who got to make the first move or even pursue him, which just made him even more alluring. His wit and humor. Now, let's talk about Cary Grant and his effect on his leading ladies. This guy was so magnetic and natural on screen that he pushed his co-stars to step up their game. Take Rosalind Russell in His Girl Friday. She was already known for her quick, witty delivery in The Women, but when she teamed up with Grant, she had to take it to a whole new level. His clever, mischievous energy challenged her to be even sharper, quicker, and funnier. And what we got was one of the greatest rom-coms ever. Their chemistry was off the charts because Grant didn't just keep up with her, he inspired her to go all out. Then there's Bringing Up Baby with Katharine Hepburn. Hepburn was known as a serious actress, But the craziness of that movie, and Grant's total comfort with all the chaotic, silly antics, forced her to loosen up in a way she never had before. She had to ditch her usual serious actress vibe and just dive into the bizarre humor of it all. It's one of her most unforgettable performances because she's fully committed, and that's largely thanks to Grant giving her the space to be playful and let loose. Now think about Charade and To Catch a Thief, where he starred with Audrey Hepburn and Grace Kelly. These are women we think of as practically untouchable icons, classy, cool, and maybe even a little bit distant. But opposite Grant's mysterious charm, they got to explore a whole new side of their characters. With him, they could be flirtatious and bold, showing a hunger for adventure and romance that went beyond the typical leading lady roles of the time. He brought out something deeper and more daring in them, and that's what made those movies so captivating. Grant was such a perfect, easygoing movie star that people often accuse him of just playing himself in every role. And yeah, he was charming, handsome, and funny without trying, but that effortlessness was the work. His natural style hid all the complexity of what he was doing, so you almost forgot he was acting. It was like he created this larger-than-life version of himself on screen, so much so that he almost believed it. Born Archibald Leach in a poor family in Bristol, England, he reinvented himself through sheer grit and charisma, leaving behind his past for a Hollywood fantasy. He wrestled with insecurities and his own doubts, but he once said, "I think I became what I portrayed." There's even a story where he introduced himself to someone as Cary Grant, and she said, "You don't look like Cary Grant," to which he famously replied, "I know, no one does." It was his way of acknowledging that Cary Grant, the movie star, was a bit of a myth, one he'd carefully crafted, but that even he knew wasn't fully real. That's the genius of Grant. He made himself into a legend while keeping just enough distance to know that Cary Grant, movie star, was as much an invention as any of his characters. He had a spotless image and reputation. Women adored Grant because he seemed like the type who would never let them down. Smooth and charming, but also solid and dependable. Grant never played the bad boy or the reckless heartbreaker. He was the kind of guy who wore a suit so perfectly you'd swear he was born in it. He was the ideal leading man, someone who always had everything under control. In his films, you'd never see him get overly emotional or ruffled. No matter how crazy things got, he handled it all with a cool head and that famous half smile. Women found that kind of calm and confidence incredibly appealing. Who wouldn't be drawn to a man who could make you feel like everything would be okay? But then, this image was so great that even the studios he worked for had to maintain it. However, Cary Grant's perfect good boy image almost took a dark turn in Suspicion, playing a schemer who seduces Joan Fontaine's character and, in the original story, plans to kill her for her money. Imagine Grant as a cold, calculating husband. Almost unrecognizable, right? That's exactly what the film was supposed to show. But the studio got nervous about tarnishing his spotless image, so they forced a rewrite. Instead of poisoning his wife, it all ends with a twist. It turns out her suspicions were only in her head, and he's innocent after all. We're left with a what if? What if he'd been allowed to go full dark? Suspicion gave us just a taste of what Grant might have done if he'd explored these darker roles, but sadly, we never really got to see it. However, he did give us a deeper look in Hitchcock's Notorious. His character in this one isn't evil, but he's far from the polished, perfect Cary Grant we were used to. He's simmering with this bottled-up rage, heartbreak, and jealousy that makes you wonder if he's going to lose it at any moment. You see him as more than just the suave leading man. There's something broken and angry under the surface, like his good looks are just a mask hiding all this bitterness and pain. One scene where he watches Ingrid Bergman with this cold, devastated expression says it all. He barely moves or says a word, but you feel everything he's holding back. This side of Grant, the darker, more complex side, was mesmerizing. It showed he could go places few expected, and that his talent wasn't limited to charm and good looks. For just a few moments, you see that his beauty could be unsettling, even dangerous, and it's thrilling to imagine the kind of roles he might have taken if the studios hadn't been so protective of his pristine image. Grant, the mystery man. While everyone else in the industry was all over the tabloids throwing parties and airing out their personal lives, Grant was different. He kept things quiet, private. He didn't feel the need to be front and center, and he definitely wasn't part of the Hollywood party scene. Instead, he stayed on the sidelines, letting people wonder, and believe me, they did wonder. Women absolutely adored him for this. There was something about his silence, his restraint, that was captivating. It was like he always had some secret he wasn't telling, and that drove people crazy in the best way. Women were drawn to him because he seemed so different from the typical Hollywood playboy. With Grant, you couldn't help but feel like there was so much more going on beneath that smooth exterior, but he only let you see what he wanted you to see. It made him feel almost unattainable, and women loved that. They didn't want the guy who was out there in the spotlight every night. They wanted the one who was cool, composed, and just a little bit mysterious. You didn't get any wild stories or public drama with him. He controlled his image, giving you just enough to keep you interested, but never too much. That air of mystery, of not quite knowing who Cary Grant was, made him feel almost out of reach, and that only made him more intriguing. Women loved that they had to wonder, that he was a puzzle they could never fully solve. It was like he had cracked the code on how to be endlessly fascinating by saying less, not more, and everyone was hooked. The god of romance. When it comes to classic romance, Cary Grant practically wrote the book. His roles in films like An Affair to Remember and To Catch a Thief weren't just love stories. They were fantasies that defined what romance could be on screen. In An Affair to Remember, he was the man who could make a promise on top of the Empire State Building feel like the most romantic gesture imaginable. He had this way of making even the smallest moments, just a look or a line, feel deep and meaningful, and audiences ate it up. Women watching these films couldn't help but imagine him as the ideal partner. Grant had this balance of charisma and tenderness, a rare blend that made it easy to believe he would love fiercely and loyally, with just a hint of mystery thrown in. James Nairmore, a film scholar, put it perfectly. Grant was a romantic ideal, not an aggressive lover. This shift in how the romance played out made his relationships feel more collaborative, like a dance between equals. And when it came to his screwball comedies, it was even more powerful. Grant didn't just play the charming leading man, he brought out the best in his co-stars, especially the women. Their performances became more textured, more nuanced, and the chemistry between them became the heart of the film. It wasn't just about the romance, it was about the kind of partnership that felt real and relatable, even if it was set in a comedic, often over-the-top world. The result was always a romance that felt fresh, exciting, and, in its own way, deeply empowering. In The Bachelor and the Bobby Soxer, there's this moment where Shirley Temple's character has a massive crush on Cary Grant, and her older sister, played by Myrna Loy, makes a snarky comment about Grant's fatal fascination and how it won't last. Of course, the joke's on her because she ends up falling for him too. And honestly, that's exactly how audiences have felt about Cary Grant ever since. Like Temple's character, we can't help but get caught up in the fantasy of Cary Grant. This charming, mysterious, exciting man who seems like he could be everything we dream of. Think about it. In To Catch a Thief and Charade, we totally get why Grace Kelly and Audrey Hepburn are so drawn to him, even with the hints of danger in his past. Or how in Suspicion, Joan Fontaine's character sticks by him despite her doubts, and in Holiday, Katharine Hepburn's character risks her stable life for a shot at adventure with him. He's the guy who makes you want to throw caution to the wind, whether you're the character on screen or a fan watching him, and Cary himself knew the effect he had. He once joked, "Everyone wants to be Cary Grant, even I want to be Cary Grant." That's what made him so magnetic. He embodied this perfect blend of fantasy and reality, making people feel like anything was possible if they were with him. In movies like The Bishop's Wife, where he even played an angel, he was the ultimate leading man, letting us all escape into that world where Cary Grant could be our own romantic hero. Ever the eye candy? Seeing Cary Grant's face for the first time was nothing short of a revelation. With his impossibly deep tan, those expressive chocolate brown eyes, and that glossy black hair, he had a look that could stop anyone in their tracks. And then there was his chin, famous for its dimple, instantly recognizable, making him stand out in a way most actors could only dream of. It wasn't just his good looks. It was the way he carried himself, effortlessly cool, as if he knew exactly how to captivate an audience with just a glance. Grant could have converted anyone to the Church of Cary with a single look. For one person, that moment came on a summer day nearly 20 years ago when they watched To Catch a Thief, 1955, for the first time. The film wasn't just their introduction to Alfred Hitchcock, a filmmaker who would go on to shape their cinematic taste, or to Grace Kelly, whose elegance was undeniable. It was their first real encounter with Cary Grant. In that moment, the actor's absurdly handsome face, paired with his striped sweater, polka-dotted scarf, and that effortlessly charming smile, completely captivated them. As the camera zoomed in on Grant's face, it was like the world stopped for a second. Who is this guy? They wondered, completely caught off guard by the magnetic presence Grant exuded. It wasn't just his appearance that had this effect. It was the subtle but undeniable charisma that Grant brought to every role, making everything seem so natural, so effortless. That one close-up was enough to leave a lasting impression, sparking a fascination that would only grow the more they watched his films. His raw aura. Cary Grant didn't need to do much to captivate you. He had a way of drawing you in without even trying. To Catch a Thief is a perfect example of this. There's a scene where he's walking through his garden, and it's somehow more graceful and refined than any perfectly tailored tuxedo. He doesn't have to say a word. It's just the way he moves, the effortless elegance of his every step that makes you pause and watch. Then there's that moment on the bus with the cage of twittering birds next to him. Grant's expression is deadpan, but somehow it makes you laugh anyway, even though there's no joke. It's the kind of subtle humor he mastered. Just a look, and you're in on the joke. And when he's sitting in a restaurant, casually putting his foot up on a chair, it's suddenly the most charismatic, stylish thing a man could do. You find yourself thinking, why does this look so right? It's all part of his charm. He exudes mystery, intelligence, and class in every scene. Simply by existing, it's not just about the character he's playing. It's about who he is. You're not just invested in his roles. You're curious about him off-screen too, drawn in by the aura of sophistication and depth that seem to follow him everywhere.
In the luminous yet shadowy world of Hollywood, where stars shine bright against the night sky, the story of Karen Black unfolds like a captivating screenplay filled with twists and turns, triumphs and trials. Known for her piercing gaze and unparalleled versatility, Karen Black carved a niche for herself in an era that redefined cinema. Yet, beneath the glittering surface of her celebrated career lay a tapestry of untold stories, hidden struggles, and enigmatic truths that fans never knew. Karen Black's journey from an aspiring actress to a cinematic icon of the 70s is a testament to her indomitable spirit and raw talent. But what lies beyond the accolades and the spotlight? From her groundbreaking performances that challenged the norms of her time to her ventures into the realms of writing and music, Karen's life was a mosaic of creativity and complexity. As we peel back the layers of her storied career, we uncover the method behind her magic, revealing the depth of her dedication to her craft. Yet Karen's life was not without its shadows, personal battles fought away from the public eye, and her role as a mentor and advocate for the arts painted a picture of a woman whose influence extended far beyond the silver screen. A Star is Born. In the heartland of America, in the small town of Park Ridge, Illinois, a star was born on July 1, 1939. Karen Blanche Ziegler, who would later be known to the world as Karen Black, entered life with the kind of spark that presaged her future luminosity in the world of cinema. Raised in a household where creativity was the currency, her mother, a writer of several award-winning children's novels, and her father, a businessman with a penchant for storytelling, imbued in Karen a deep love for the arts from a tender age. Karen's journey to stardom was not a straight path, but a winding road filled with dreams, determination, and a relentless pursuit of expression. Her early years were marked by a sense of adventure and a quest for understanding the human condition, themes that would later permeate her most memorable performances. The family's move to Chicago when Karen was young opened new vistas of opportunity, exposing her to the vibrant theater scene that thrived in the city's heart. The stage became Karen's first love and battleground, where she honed her craft and learned the ropes of acting. Her education at the Goodman Theater School of Drama at the Art Institute of Chicago was not just an academic pursuit, it was a rite of passage. Here, Karen delved into the depths of character development and the nuances of performance, laying the foundation for a career that would defy conventions and challenge perceptions. Yet, the call of Hollywood was irresistible. In the early 1960s, with a heart full of dreams and a suitcase packed with ambition, Karen made the pilgrimage west, joining the ranks of hopefuls in the city of angels. Los Angeles was a world away from the theaters of Chicago, a place where dreams were both made and shattered. Karen's early days in Hollywood were a test of her resolve, a period of auditions, rejections, and small parts that tested the limits of her perseverance. But Karen Black was not one to be easily dissuaded. Her breakthrough came in a way that seemed almost fated, a serendipitous alignment of talent, timing, and opportunity. It was her role in Francis Ford Coppola's You're a Big Boy Now, 1966, that first turned heads, but it was the seminal year of 1969 that would forever change her trajectory. Her roles in Easy Rider, alongside Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper, and as Rayette DePesto in 5 Easy Pieces opposite Jack Nicholson, showcased her extraordinary range and raw emotional depth, earning her critical acclaim and a place in the pantheon of new Hollywood icons. The breakthrough. The late 1960s and early 1970s marked a seismic shift in American cinema, a period now revered as the New Hollywood era. It was a time when the film industry underwent a radical transformation, driven by a new generation of filmmakers and actors who dared to push the boundaries of storytelling, character development, and cinematic art. Amidst this cultural revolution, Karen Black emerged as a defining figure, her breakthrough performances resonating with both the zeitgeist of the times and the evolving tastes of the audience. Karen's role in 5 Easy Pieces, 1970, a film that has since become emblematic of the New Hollywood movement, was a career-defining moment. Portraying Rayette DePesto, a waitress who embodies the complexities of love, longing, and societal displacement, Karen delivered a performance that was both heart-wrenching and deeply human. Her ability to convey the subtleties of emotion and vulnerability earned her an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress, cementing her status as one of the era's most talented and versatile actors. This period of Karen's career was marked by a series of roles that showcased her range and depth as an actress. In The Great Gatsby, 1974, she took on the role of Myrtle Wilson, bringing to life the tragic figure with a performance that was both nuanced and powerful. Her portrayal of Myrtle's desperation and doomed aspirations highlighted Karen's skill in capturing the essence of complex characters, further establishing her as a force to be reckoned with in Hollywood. Another significant milestone came with her role in Airport 1975, where Karen played the stewardess Nancy Pryor. In a film that combined disaster movie tropes with human drama, Karen's performance stood out, offering a glimpse into her ability to anchor a film with her presence and emotional depth. This role, among others, demonstrated her versatility and helped solidify her reputation as one of the most reliable and compelling actresses of her time. The method behind the magic. Karen Black's approach to her craft was as unique as the characters she brought to life on screen. Rooted in the method acting technique, her preparation for roles went beyond mere memorization of lines or understanding the script. Karen delved deep into the psyche of her characters, seeking to inhabit their world fully and bring an authenticity to her performances that resonated with audiences and critics alike. Her dedication to the method was evident in the way she approached each role, often spending weeks or even months researching and immersing herself in the character's background, motivations, and emotional landscape. This intense preparation process allowed Karen to deliver performances that were not only compelling, but also deeply human, capturing the complexities and nuances of the characters she portrayed. One of the most striking examples of Karen's method acting came with her role in 5 Easy Pieces. To embody Rayette, a character whose dreams and disappointments are palpable throughout the film, Karen spent time in diners, observing and interacting with waitresses to capture the essence of her character's life. Her commitment to authenticity paid off, resulting in a performance that was both powerful and poignant, earning her critical acclaim and an Academy Award nomination. Karen's ability to transform herself for her roles was not limited to dramatic parts. In Trilogy of Terror, 1975, a made-for-television anthology horror film, she showcased her versatility by playing 4 distinct characters, including a tormented college student and a woman terrorized by a Zuni fetish doll. Her performances in this film highlighted her skill in navigating a range of emotions and genres, from terror to despair, further cementing her status as a versatile and talented actress. Behind the magic of Karen Black's performances was a relentless pursuit of truth in her portrayal of characters. Whether it was through meticulous research, physical transformation, or emotional immersion, Karen's method acting technique was a testament to her dedication to her craft and her desire to connect with audiences on a profound level. Her legacy as an actress is not only defined by the roles she played, but also by the depth and authenticity she brought to each character, leaving an indelible mark on the world of cinema. Hidden talents. Karen Black's artistry extended far beyond the silver screen, revealing a woman of multifaceted talents and interests. While audiences around the world knew her as a captivating actress, many were unaware of the depth of her creativity, which flowed through her veins like an unending river, touching the shores of music, writing, and more. Music was one of Karen's most profound hidden talents. With a voice as distinctive as her on-screen presence, she ventured into the world of songwriting and singing with a passion that mirrored her approach to acting. Her album, released in the early 1980s, showcased not just her vocal abilities but also her skill as a songwriter. The songs, imbued with introspective lyrics and melodic tunes, offered listeners a glimpse into the inner world of an artist who found solace and expression in the rhythm and rhymes of music. Karen's literary talents were another aspect of her creative persona that remained largely out of the public eye. A prolific writer, she penned several screenplays and stories, each reflecting her keen observations of the human condition and her deep understanding of emotional complexities. Her writing, much like her performances, was a canvas where she explored themes of love, loss, and the intricacies of human relationships. In addition to her musical and literary endeavors, Karen had a keen interest in photography and painting, mediums through which she captured the beauty and absurdity of the world around her. Her photographs and artworks, though seldom exhibited, were as expressive and evocative as her roles on screen, marked by a unique perspective that was unmistakably Karen. Karen Black's hidden talents were a testament to her boundless creativity and her relentless pursuit of artistic expression. Whether through the chords of a song, the words on a page, or the strokes of a brush, she communicated with a depth and sincerity that resonated with those who had the privilege of experiencing her art. Her legacy, enriched by these diverse talents, stands as a reminder of the profound impact a truly creative spirit can have on the world. The cult icon. Karen Black's journey through Hollywood's ever-changing landscape solidified her status not just as a versatile actress, but as a cult icon whose work resonated deeply within the realms of independent cinema and genre films. Her fearless choice of roles and her unparalleled ability to breathe life into every character she portrayed endeared her to a dedicated fan base that revered her as much for her unconventional choices as for her undeniable talent. The 1970s and 1980s saw Karen embracing roles in films that would later be celebrated as cult classics, further cementing her legacy as an icon of alternative cinema. Her appearance in Trilogy of Terror, 1975, a horror anthology television movie, showcased her exceptional range and ability to captivate audiences with her performance in 3 distinct roles, particularly as the tormented protagonist in the segment featuring the now infamous Zuni fetish doll. This role, among others, contributed to her lasting legacy in the horror genre, making her a beloved figure among horror enthusiasts. Karen's work in Burnt Offerings, 1976, further exemplified her status as a cult icon. In this haunted house thriller, her portrayal of a wife and mother slowly succumbing to the malevolent forces of her family's new home highlighted her skill in navigating the psychological depths of her characters, earning the film a special place in the hearts of horror aficionados. Beyond horror, Karen's roles in independent films and her collaborations with pioneering directors of the time played a significant role in her cult iconography. Her ability to seamlessly transition between genres, from drama to horror to comedy, showcased her versatility and fearless approach to her craft. This adaptability made her a favorite among directors looking for an actress who could bring complexity and authenticity to challenging roles. Personal struggles, public battles. Karen Black's luminous career and diverse artistic pursuits were often shadowed by personal struggles and public battles that tested her resilience and fortitude. Despite the challenges she faced, Karen's spirit remained unbroken, exemplifying her strength and determination to overcome adversity. One of the most significant struggles in Karen's life was her battle with health issues that emerged later in her career. In 2010, Karen was diagnosed with ampullary cancer, a rare form of cancer that affects the bile duct. The diagnosis marked the beginning of a difficult journey, as Karen underwent several medical treatments, including surgery and chemotherapy, in an effort to combat the disease. Her fight against cancer was not only a personal struggle, but also a public battle, as she shared her experiences with her fans and the world, showcasing her vulnerability and humanity. Karen's health battle took a toll on her professionally, as it limited her ability to work and take on new projects. However, her determination to continue acting and her passion for the arts never waned. Even during her treatment, Karen sought to remain active in the creative community, participating in projects as much as her health would allow and continuing to inspire those around her with her resilience. In addition to her health struggles, Karen faced financial difficulties that were exacerbated by her medical expenses. In 2013, her family launched a crowdfunding campaign to help cover the costs of her treatment, revealing the extent of her financial strain. The campaign received an outpouring of support from fans and the film community, highlighting the deep affection and respect that many held for Karen. The mentor. Beyond her roles as an actress, Karen embraced the role of mentor with a generosity and passion that mirrored her approach to her craft. Her dedication to nurturing new talent was a testament to her belief in the transformative power of art and the importance of guidance and support in the creative journey. Karen's mentorship extended across various facets of filmmaking, from acting to writing and directing. She was known for her willingness to share her experiences, offering insights gleaned from decades in a challenging industry. Her advice was not just about the technicalities of acting or the nuances of character development. It was also about navigating the complexities of the film industry, maintaining artistic integrity, and the importance of resilience. One of Karen's most impactful contributions as a mentor was her involvement in workshops and acting classes. Here, she engaged with aspiring actors, providing them with a safe space to explore their abilities and push their boundaries. Karen's teaching style was immersive and hands-on, encouraging students to delve deep into their characters and embrace their vulnerabilities. She believed that true artistry in acting came from a place of honesty and emotional truth, and she guided her students in their pursuit of these ideals. Beyond formal settings, Karen's mentorship was also evident in her everyday interactions with young filmmakers and actors. She was known for her openness and approachability, often taking the time to engage in meaningful conversations with those seeking her advice. Her encouragement and support could be a turning point for many, offering them the confidence to pursue their dreams in an industry that could often seem impenetrable. Karen's impact as a mentor went beyond the technical aspects of filmmaking. She inspired her mentees to approach their art with a sense of purpose and a deep respect for the storytelling process. She emphasized the importance of empathy and emotional intelligence in creating work that resonated with audiences. Her guidance helped shape a new generation of artists, imbuing them with a sense of responsibility to their craft and to the stories they chose to tell. Moreover, Karen's mentorship reflected her broader vision for the film industry, a community where collaboration and mutual support were foundational values. She envisioned a space where creativity was nurtured and diverse voices were celebrated, paving the way for a more inclusive and dynamic cinematic landscape. An unconventional style. Karen Black's style was a vivid reflection of her era's cultural shifts, embodying the spirit of the 1960s and 70s with a distinctive flair that set her apart in Hollywood's fashion landscape. Her approach to fashion was as eclectic and daring as the roles she chose, making her a style icon who defied the conventional norms of celebrity dressing. In the 1970s, when Black's career was at its zenith, fashion was undergoing a radical transformation. The decade celebrated individuality and self-expression with influences ranging from the bohemian to the disco. Karen navigated these trends with an innate sense of style that was both of the moment and timeless. She was often seen in maxi dresses, a staple of 70s fashion, which she styled with her unique twist, incorporating bold prints and unconventional accessories that highlighted her artistic sensibility. Karen's public appearances were marked by her preference for outfits that blended glamour with a touch of the avant-garde. At the 46th Academy Awards in 1974, where she was nominated for her performance in The Great Gatsby, Karen epitomized 70s chic in a black halter neck gown. The simplicity of the dress was offset by her dramatic makeup and hairstyle, showcasing her ability to merge classic Hollywood elegance with the era's more experimental trends. Off the red carpet, Karen's personal style was equally compelling. She was known for her love of vintage clothing, often spotted in secondhand stores searching for unique pieces that she would incorporate into her everyday wardrobe. This penchant for vintage was not just a fashion statement, but a reflection of her broader artistic and environmental values, predating the contemporary movement towards sustainable fashion. Karen's influence on fashion extended beyond her personal style. She was a muse to several designers of the time who were drawn to her unconventional beauty and fearless approach to fashion. Her collaborations with these designers often resulted in groundbreaking looks that captured the imagination of the public and the fashion industry alike. Karen Black's unconventional style was more than just a facet of her public persona. It was an integral part of her identity as an artist and individual. Through her fashion choices, she communicated a sense of freedom, creativity, and defiance that resonated with the cultural zeitgeist of her time and continues to inspire today. The final act. Karen Black's career spanned over 5 decades, during which she became an emblem of versatility and resilience in the entertainment industry. Her final years, however, were marked by a courageous battle with cancer that she faced with the same strength and dignity that characterized her life and work. In 2010, Karen was diagnosed with ampullary cancer, leading to an extensive medical battle that included surgery and chemotherapy. Despite the severity of her condition, she continued to work, showcasing her unwavering dedication to her craft. One of her last film projects was She Loves Me Not, 2013, a testament to her enduring talent and commitment to acting even in the face of adversity. Karen's health struggles became public in 2013 when her husband, Stephen Eckelberry, launched a crowdfunding campaign to help cover the costs of her medical treatments. The campaign highlighted not only the financial challenges faced by many veteran actors, but also the outpouring of support from fans and the film community. This gesture underscored the impact Karen had on her audience and peers, reflecting the deep affection and respect she garnered throughout her career. On August 8, 2013, Karen Black passed away at the age of 74. Her death was mourned by many who had been touched by her performances, her spirit, and her courage. Tributes poured in from across the industry, with colleagues, critics, and fans alike celebrating her contributions to cinema and her role as a trailblazer for women in Hollywood. Karen's legacy is preserved not only through her memorable performances in films like 5 Easy Pieces, The Great Gatsby, and Nashville, but also through her influence on independent cinema and her advocacy for creative expression. She remains a figure of inspiration for her ability to navigate the complexities of fame and personal challenges with grace. Her final act, marked by both personal struggle and professional achievements, serves as a poignant reminder of the human behind the celebrity. Karen Black's story is one of talent, resilience, and the indomitable spirit of an artist who continued to inspire until the very end. Jean Arthur's journey through Hollywood was unlike any other. With a career that spanned over 3 decades, she delivered performances that have since become benchmarks of the golden age of cinema. Yet, for someone so visible on the silver screen, Arthur was a figure of profound privacy, her off-screen life a stark contrast to the characters she so vivaciously brought to life. But who was Jean Arthur truly? Beyond the laughter and the acclaim, beyond the roles that made her a household name, there lay a woman of complexity, a soul who sought solace away from the cacophony of fame. Arthur's reluctance to embrace her celebrity status, her battles with anxiety, and her eventual retreat from Hollywood form a narrative as compelling as any of her films. This video seeks to peel back the layers of Jean Arthur's quiet radiance, to explore the dichotomy of a woman who was both a beacon of talent on screen and an enigma off it. From her early days in silent films to her unforgettable roles in classics directed by the likes of Frank Capra and George Stevens, we delve into the life of a woman who, despite her best efforts to remain out of the limelight, left an indelible mark on the industry and on the hearts of those who watched her. The rise of Jean Arthur. Jean Arthur's journey to becoming a beloved icon of Hollywood's golden age is a tale of resilience, talent, and an unmistakable voice that captivated audiences worldwide. Born Gladys Georgiana Green in 1900 in Plattsburgh, New York, Arthur's early life was marked by frequent moves, reflecting a restless spirit that would later define her career. Her entry into the world of acting was not a straightforward path. It was paved with the kind of determination and grit that characterized many of Hollywood's self-made stars. Arthur's foray into acting began in the early 1920s, a time when the film industry was undergoing significant transformations. The silent era was in full swing, and Hollywood was a burgeoning hub of creativity and innovation. Arthur's initial roles were small, often uncredited parts in silent films, where her distinctive presence began to draw attention. Despite the limitations of these early roles, Arthur's persistence paid off, leading to more substantial parts that showcased her range and depth as an actress. The transition from silent films to talkies in the late 1920s and early 1930s was a tumultuous period for many actors, whose careers were abruptly ended by the new demand for a different kind of on-screen presence. However, for Arthur, the advent of sound cinema provided an opportunity to leverage her most unique asset, her voice. Described as a mix of a squeak and a melodious lilt, Arthur's voice became her signature, setting her apart from her contemporaries and endearing her to audiences and critics alike. Arthur's breakthrough came with her role in The Whole Town's Talking, 1935, a performance that showcased her comedic timing and charm. However, it was her collaboration with director Frank Capra that catapulted her to stardom. Films like Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, 1936, and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, 1939, not only solidified her status as a leading lady, but also highlighted her ability to bring depth and authenticity to her characters, traits that would define her career. Despite her success, Arthur's relationship with fame was complex. Known for her reclusive nature and discomfort with the Hollywood publicity machine, Arthur's off-screen life was shrouded in mystery, a stark contrast to the vivacious and approachable characters she portrayed. The craft of comedy. Jean Arthur's ascent to the zenith of Hollywood stardom was marked by her unparalleled mastery of the screwball comedy genre, a style of film that became immensely popular during the 1930s and 1940s. This genre, known for its fast-paced dialogue, complex plots, and blend of slapstick with a sophisticated wit, found its perfect muse in Arthur. Her performances in Mr. Deeds Goes to Town and The Lady Eve are emblematic of her ability to navigate the intricate dynamics of screwball comedy, showcasing her talent for combining wit, charm, and a palpable sense of vulnerability. Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, 1936, directed by Frank Capra, was a pivotal film in Arthur's career. Cast opposite Gary Cooper, Arthur played the role of Babe Bennett, a sharp-witted reporter who falls for Longfellow deeds. Cooper, a simple man who inherits a vast fortune. Arthur's portrayal of Bennett was a masterclass in the screwball heroine archetype, intelligent, independent, and morally complex. Her on-screen chemistry with Cooper was electric, and her performance earned critical acclaim, solidifying her status as one of the era's leading ladies in comedy. However, it was perhaps her role in The Lady Eve, 1941, directed by Preston Sturges, that fully showcased Arthur's comedic genius. Though Barbara Stanwyck played the lead in The Lady Eve, Arthur's roles in similar screwball comedies of the era, such as The More the Merrier, 1943, demonstrated her adeptness at this genre. Her ability to deliver rapid-fire dialogue with precision, coupled with her comedic timing and the inherent warmth she brought to her characters, made her performances stand out. Arthur's characters often challenged societal norms, embodying a modern woman's spirit who was both assertive and feminine. Arthur's unique appeal in the screwball comedy genre lay in her ability to blend humor with heart. Her characters were not mere caricatures, they were imbued with a depth and complexity that resonated with audiences. Arthur herself brought a sense of authenticity to these roles, drawing on her personal experiences and inner resilience. Off-screen, Arthur was known for her shyness and aversion to the Hollywood limelight, traits that contrasted sharply with the confident women she portrayed on screen. This juxtaposition between her private self and her public persona added layers to her performances, making her characters all the more compelling. Arthur's contribution to the screwball comedy genre extended beyond her individual performances. She helped define the archetype of the screwball heroine, a woman who was equal parts intellect, humor, and heart. This archetype would influence countless films and performances in the genre, leaving a legacy that endures in cinematic history. Jean Arthur's mastery of screwball comedy, highlighted in films like Mr. Deeds Goes to Town and through her body of work in the genre, showcases her as one of the definitive leading ladies of her era. Her ability to convey wit, charm, and vulnerability on screen not only endeared her to audiences, but also cemented her place in Hollywood's golden age as a symbol of comedic and dramatic excellence. Arthur and Capra, a cinematic partnership. The collaboration between Jean Arthur and Frank Capra is one of Hollywood's most celebrated director-actor partnerships, emblematic of a period when cinema was as much about entertainment as it was about conveying poignant social messages. This partnership flourished during the 1930s, a time of significant social and economic upheaval in the United States. Capra, with his deeply ingrained belief in the goodness of the common man and his critique of unchecked power, found in Arthur not just a talented actress, but a conduit for his themes of integrity, resilience, and social justice. Their collaboration produced several films, but none more significant than Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, 1939, a film that has come to define American ideals of democracy and individual agency. Arthur played Clarissa Saunders, a savvy and cynical secretary who helps the film's protagonist, Jefferson Smith, played by James Stewart, navigate the complexities of American politics. Arthur's performance, marked by a blend of skepticism and eventual inspiration, perfectly complemented Capra's vision of an America where ordinary individuals can make a difference. The success of Mr. Smith Goes to Washington was due in no small part to the synergy between Capra's direction and Arthur's performance. Capra's socially conscious storytelling, which often tackled themes of corruption, media manipulation, and the loss of innocence, found its ideal expression in Arthur's characters, who often embodied a blend of idealism and pragmatism. This dynamic allowed Capra's films to resonate on a deeply emotional level, with Arthur serving as the relatable, human element in his grand narratives. Arthur's collaboration with Capra was not limited to Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Their partnership also produced Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, 1936, and You Can't Take It With You, 1938, films that similarly explored themes of simplicity, honesty, and the value of community. In each of these films, Arthur's performances were critical to grounding Capra's ideals in relatable human terms. Her ability to convey complex emotions with subtlety and depth provided the perfect foil to Capra's larger-than-life characters and situations. Beyond her work with Capra, Arthur's career was also marked by her collaboration with another legendary director, John Ford, in The Whole Town's Talking, 1935. While her partnership with Ford was not as extensive as with Capra, it further showcased her versatility as an actress and her ability to adapt to different directorial styles. Ford, known for his portrayal of American myths and landscapes, utilized Arthur's talent to explore themes of identity and redemption, adding another layer to her already diverse career. The Reluctant Star. Jean Arthur's luminous presence on the silver screen belied a deeply private nature, a paradox that defined her career and personal life. Despite her undeniable talent and the acclaim that came with it, Arthur was known for her shyness and aversion to the Hollywood limelight, a reluctance that stood in stark contrast to the bold, spirited characters she portrayed. This chapter delves into the complexities of Arthur's stardom, exploring how her reluctance to embrace fame contrasted sharply with her on-screen persona and professional success. Arthur's preference for privacy over public accolades was well known within the industry. Unlike many of her contemporaries, she eschewed the typical trappings of Hollywood fame, rarely appearing at public events or participating in the studio's publicity efforts beyond what was contractually required. Interviews with Arthur were scarce, and she was known to be uncomfortable with the fanfare and attention that came with her profession. This reticence extended to her personal life, which she guarded fiercely, leading to much speculation and mystery surrounding the actress. Despite her aversion to the spotlight, Arthur's talent could not be contained. On screen, she exuded a natural warmth and charisma, endearing her to audiences and making her one of the most beloved actresses of her time. Her ability to convey strength, vulnerability, and humor, often simultaneously, made her performances compelling and relatable. Arthur's work with directors like Frank Capra highlighted her unique appeal, showcasing her as the quintessential everywoman who embodied American ideals of integrity and resilience. The contrast between Arthur's public and private selves raises questions about the nature of stardom and the expectations placed on public figures. Arthur's career coincided with the golden age of Hollywood, a time when stars were expected to maintain a certain image and availability to their fans. Her reluctance to participate in this aspect of her profession was seen as unconventional, even problematic, by studio executives who relied on star power to promote their films. Yet, Arthur's insistence on maintaining her privacy can also be viewed as a form of resistance against the commodification of celebrity and an assertion of her autonomy. Arthur's shyness and preference for privacy did not diminish her professional dedication. Colleagues and directors often spoke of her commitment to her craft, her meticulous preparation for roles, and her ability to transform once the cameras were rolling. This professionalism, coupled with her natural talent, ensured that Arthur's career thrived despite her aversion to the spotlight. Pioneering feminine archetypes. In an era when women on screen were often relegated to secondary or stereotypical roles, Arthur's characters stood out for their strength, intelligence, and independence. Her portrayal of such roles contributed to evolving representations of women in cinema, offering audiences a glimpse of a more nuanced and empowered female identity. Arthur's characters were often women ahead of their time, navigating professional and personal challenges with a blend of resilience and grace. In Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, she plays a savvy reporter who, despite her initial cynicism, reveals a deep capacity for empathy and integrity. Similarly, in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Arthur portrays a seasoned political aide who becomes an invaluable ally to James Stewart's idealistic senator, showcasing her character's intelligence and political acumen. These roles, among others, positioned Arthur as an actress capable of conveying complex female experiences, breaking away from the damsel-in-distress archetype prevalent in many films of the era. Arthur's on-screen personas resonated with the emerging sensibilities of a society on the cusp of significant social change. The 1930s and 1940s were decades marked by economic turmoil, war, and the beginning of shifts in gender dynamics. Women were entering the workforce in unprecedented numbers, and their roles within the family and society at large were beginning to evolve. Arthur's characters reflected this shift, embodying the aspirations and challenges of a generation of women seeking greater autonomy and recognition. Moreover, Arthur's collaboration with directors like Frank Capra further amplified her impact on the portrayal of women in cinema. Capra's films, known for their social commentary and exploration of American ideals, provided Arthur with a platform to showcase her range as an actress and to bring to life characters that were both relatable and inspirational. Her performances in Capra's films not only entertained, but also provoked thought about the role of women in society, their capacity for leadership, and their right to pursue personal and professional fulfillment. Jean Arthur's contribution to cinema extends beyond her individual performances to include her influence on the portrayal of women on screen. By taking on roles that challenged traditional gender roles, Arthur paved the way for future generations of actresses. Her legacy is evident in the increasingly complex and diverse representations of women in film, a testament to her enduring impact on the industry. Arthur's reluctance to embrace the trappings of fame, coupled with her commitment to portraying strong, intelligent women, underscores the duality of her legacy. Off-screen, she was a private individual who shied away from the spotlight, yet on-screen, she represented a progressive vision of womanhood. This duality enriches Arthur's legacy, making her not just a celebrated actress of Hollywood's golden age, but also a pioneering figure in the evolution of women's representation in cinema. The transition to stage and television. Jean Arthur's transition from the silver screen to the stage and television marked a significant shift in her career, reflecting her desire to explore different facets of acting and to engage with new audiences. This chapter delves into the later part of Arthur's career, highlighting her notable stage performances and her role in the television series The Jean Arthur Show, underscoring her continued impact on the performing arts. After achieving considerable success in Hollywood, Arthur's career took a turn as she began to seek opportunities beyond film. Her move towards stage and television was driven by a combination of factors, including her well-documented discomfort with the Hollywood system and her desire for more challenging and diverse roles. Arthur's foray into theater was not just a departure from film, but a return to her roots. Before her Hollywood fame, she had experience in New York's theater scene, which had initially honed her acting skills. One of Arthur's most significant stage roles came in 1950, when she starred in the Broadway production of Peter Pan as Peter. Her performance was lauded for its energy and whimsy, capturing the eternal youthfulness of the character and showcasing Arthur's versatility as an actress. This role, among others, demonstrated Arthur's ability to captivate live audiences, just as she had film audiences, with her unique charm and talent. Arthur's transition to television was highlighted by The Jean Arthur Show in 1966, where she played a lawyer. The show was an attempt to capitalize on Arthur's enduring appeal, offering her a platform to reach a new generation of viewers. Despite the show's short run, it was a testament to Arthur's willingness to embrace new challenges and to adapt to the changing dynamics of the entertainment industry. Arthur's work in stage and television during the latter part of her career is indicative of her broader impact on the performing arts. She brought the same depth and nuance to her stage and television roles as she did to her film characters, challenging traditional gender roles and paving the way for future generations of actresses. Her characters often embodied strength, intelligence, and independence, contributing to evolving representations of women in cinema and beyond. Moreover, Arthur's transition highlights the fluidity between different mediums of acting, underscoring the idea that talent transcends the platform. Her ability to move between film, stage, and television with ease and success is a testament to her skill as an actress and her dedication to her craft. In examining the later part of Jean Arthur's career, we see a performer who was not content to rest on her laurels, but was driven by a passion for acting and a desire to explore the full range of her abilities. Her contributions to stage and television are an essential part of her legacy, showcasing her versatility and her continued relevance in the world of performing arts. The legacy of a reluctant star. Reflecting on Jean Arthur's enduring legacy in Hollywood requires an appreciation of her unique position within the pantheon of Golden Age cinema. Arthur's contributions to the film industry during her active years were profound, not only in terms of the memorable characters she brought to life, but also in how she navigated her career with a rare blend of integrity and talent. This chapter focuses on Arthur's impact on the film industry, her influence on contemporary actresses, and her lasting symbol as an exemplar of grace and professionalism in an industry often criticized for its excesses. Jean Arthur's legacy in Hollywood is anchored in her performances, which often broke the mold of traditional female roles. Her characters were strong, intelligent, and independent, embodying a modern woman who could stand on equal footing with her male counterparts. This was a significant departure from the more conventional portrayals of women in cinema at the time, making Arthur a forerunner in the evolution of female characters in Hollywood. Films like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and The More the Merrier not only showcased her talent, but also her ability to portray women of substance and complexity. Arthur's influence extends beyond the roles she played. Her approach to her career and her life in Hollywood set her apart. Known for her aversion to the limelight and her dedication to her craft, Arthur chose roles that resonated with her personally and professionally, rather than those that would merely elevate her star status. This principled approach to acting, coupled with her natural talent, made her a role model for actresses of her time and for generations to come.
In the Golden Age era of Hollywood, there was less tolerance for affairs and illegitimate children. It could be the end of your career as an actor, and it's like putting a noose over your life socially. So imagine being born as an illegitimate child here. Some were terminated before they even got a chance to breathe. Others were condemned and forced to live in shame, but their stories would break your heart into a million pieces.
Things like that can only happen in a country like America.
Judy Lewis. Now, back in the day, Loretta Young was one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. Beautiful, talented, and very much in the public eye. But here's where things take a twist. Loretta had a secret affair with Clark Gable, who was also a massive Hollywood star, best known as Rhett Butler from Gone with the Wind. At the time, though, both of them were involved with other people. Clark was married, and Loretta had her image to protect. So when Loretta ended up pregnant, this was a huge problem, especially in an era where a public out-of-wedlock pregnancy could have destroyed her career. They had to keep the pregnancy a secret. It was already a scandal waiting to happen. So, to keep the scandal under wraps, Loretta did what a lot of actresses of that time did. She disappeared. She took a vacation from Hollywood, went away for months, and gave birth in secret in 1935. No paparazzi, no media frenzy. She had everything planned out to the last detail, even hiding the pregnancy from most of the people closest to her. It was the perfect plan. But here's where it gets interesting. When she eventually returned to Hollywood, she didn't just reveal that she had a baby. No, she made it seem like she had adopted this little girl, Judy, a year later. Imagine that. A mother adopting her own child and keeping it a secret from nearly everyone, including the child herself. That's the kind of secrecy that dominated the golden age of Hollywood. For most of Judy's childhood, she had no idea who her real parents were. She grew up believing that Loretta was just her adoptive mother. But before then, Lewis went through hell. After she was born, Loretta Young didn't bring her daughter home right away. Instead, Judy spent the first 19 months of her life in various hideaways and orphanages. Loretta was still trying to keep the whole situation under wraps. Eventually, she adopted Judy, which, as we know now, was just part of her plan to conceal the truth about Judy's parentage. When Judy was around 4 years old, Loretta married a radio producer named Tom Lewis. That's when Judy took his last name, becoming Judy Lewis. Loretta and Tom had 2 more kids together, 2 sons, Christopher and Peter. So now Judy's growing up in this family and she's finally happy and at peace, but there's one small problem. She looks a lot like Clark Gable, especially those famous ears of his that stuck out. It was a resemblance that was hard to ignore. But you would not believe what her mother, Loretta, did next. She actually had Judy undergo a painful surgery to pin her ears back up when she was just 7 years old. It was yet another attempt to hide the truth about who Judy's real father was. Can you imagine that? Going through surgery just to keep up appearances? Then, when Judy was about 15, her mother made another film with Clark Gable called Key to the City. During that time, Gable came over to visit Loretta's house, and that was the one and only time Judy ever met him. He asked her a few questions about her life, then kissed her on the forehead when he left. The kicker? Judy had no idea that Gable was her biological father. He was just this famous guy who stopped by for a brief visit. As Judy got older, she started to feel the weight of all the secrecy. She talked about how isolated and confused she felt growing up, like something was always off, but she couldn't quite put her finger on it. She didn't feel fully connected to her family, and it's no wonder why. She was living in this web of lies and half-truths that shaped her entire childhood. It must have been incredibly tough knowing something was wrong but not being able to understand what it was until much later in life. Judy finally learned the truth in the most heartbreaking way possible as an adult. She found out that the woman who raised her was actually her biological mother, and her father was none other than Clark Gable, the biggest heartthrob of his time. Loretta kept this secret for so long, and when Judy finally confronted her, Loretta admitted it, but still refused to publicly acknowledge the truth. Can you imagine the pain Judy must have felt knowing her whole life had been a lie? She spent much of her adulthood grappling with feelings of abandonment and betrayal, constantly wondering why her mother couldn't just be honest with her. To make matters worse, Clark Gable never had any real involvement in Judy's life. He didn't acknowledge her, and he never played a fatherly role. This had to be tough for Judy, growing up in the shadow of two Hollywood legends but never fully knowing or being accepted by them. So, for Judy, the scandal haunted her throughout her life. She wrote a memoir about it later, expressing how much the secrecy and lies affected her. She carried that burden, always wondering why she wasn't publicly acknowledged and why her mother chose to keep such a vital part of her identity hidden. It's the kind of story that really makes you feel for the people who lived behind the glittering Hollywood curtain, where image was everything and human emotions were often sacrificed for the sake of stardom. Robertino Roselini. It all started back in 1949. Ingrid Bergman was already one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, but she wasn't just about fame. She genuinely admired good filmmaking. Two films by Italian director Roberto Rossellini had really caught her attention, and instead of just being content with watching from afar, Bergman decided to write him a letter. In this letter, she expressed how much she loved his work and casually suggested they collaborate on a film. And, well, let's just say things escalated from there. Rossellini was quick to cast Bergman in his next project, Stromboli, and this is where the sparks really started to fly. During the production of the film, Bergman and Rossellini began an affair. Now, keep in mind, Bergman was still married to Petter Lindstrom at the time, but the chemistry between her and Rossellini was undeniable, and soon enough, it turned into something much more serious. And as you might already know by now, back in the 1950s, this wasn't just gossip. It was a full-blown scandal. Hollywood had a very polished image to uphold, and having one of their biggest stars involved in an extramarital affair was a no-no. But soon enough, it got 10 times worse when Ingrid got pregnant as a result of her affair and eventually gave birth to a son named Robertino Rossellini in 1950. Now, as you can imagine, this was a huge deal, and not in a good way. This sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. People were not only shocked that she had a child out of wedlock, but the affair itself felt like a betrayal to her public image. Bergman went from being one of the most beloved actresses in the world to a symbol of moral outrage almost overnight. She was condemned by Hollywood, criticized by the press, and even denounced on the floor of the U.S. Senate. Imagine that. A senator actually called her out as being an example of perverted morals. As for Robertino, he was born into the eye of the storm. His very existence was the center of this scandal, and that had to have some serious consequences on his life. First off, he had a strained relationship with Hollywood from the get-go. He wasn't just another kid. He was the product of one of the most controversial love affairs of the era. It's one thing to have famous parents, but to be born into a situation where the world views your birth as a scandal? That's a tough legacy to carry. Bergman's career took a huge hit, too. She was shunned by Hollywood for years, which meant that Robertino grew up in a time where his mother's name was often associated with disgrace, rather than the legendary actress she was. She moved to Italy to be with Rossellini, and while her career eventually bounced back, that period was marked by rejection and judgment, not just for her, but for her son, too. Imagine growing up knowing that your birth was the reason your mother was ostracized from an entire industry. That's a lot for a kid to carry. The damage to Robertino wasn't just public, it was personal. Having to grow up in the shadow of such a high-profile affair with parents who were constantly in the media for their turbulent relationship must have been emotionally taxing. His childhood was essentially defined by his parents' scandal, and it's hard to feel like you're living a normal life when the world already has its opinions about your family before you even know what's going on. So, in a way, Robertino's life was shaped, and possibly even damaged, by the choices his parents made and the public's harsh reaction to those choices. He was innocent in all of it, but he still had to deal with the fallout, and that's a burden no child should have to bear. The child that was never born. It's the 1940s, and Gary Cooper is the ultimate Hollywood heartthrob, right? And then you've got Patricia Neal, a talented actress who absolutely adores him. They start this passionate affair, and it's the kind of scandal that makes headlines everywhere. But here's the problem. Cooper was already married, which added a whole layer of drama to the situation. Now, Patricia is head over heels for him, but the reality of their secret relationship weighs heavily on her. Can you imagine being in love with someone who's not really available? It's like being trapped in a plot of a melodrama, but it's real life, and it's messy. Then things get even more intense. Patricia finds out she's pregnant, and it's like a roller coaster ride of emotions. She's excited about the possibility of a new life, but that happiness quickly turns into dread because Cooper, worried about the inevitable scandal, pressures her to terminate the pregnancy. Here's this woman, madly in love, and then faced with a heartbreaking decision that she never saw coming. It's gut-wrenching to think about how alone and devastated she must have felt during that time. After the affair fizzles out, Patricia picks herself up and continues to shine in Hollywood. She earns some serious accolades for her performances, which is great and all, but you can't shake the feeling that that chapter of her life lingers like a shadow. Even with all the success, she later reflects on how this experience haunted her. It's gut-wrenching to think that this child, innocent and unknowing, would never have the chance to laugh, cry, or grow up. There's no opportunity to experience the world, to find their place in it, or even to learn about their famous parents. They're just gone. And it's not because of anything they did, but because of the choices made by the adults around them. This situation not only left Patricia heartbroken, but also brought up feelings of loss and grief that would linger with her for years. It's like carrying an invisible scar that reminds you of what could have been. The world continued to turn, and she moved on with her life and career, but the shadow of that lost child loomed large. Nancy Sinatra. You know, growing up as Nancy Sinatra Jr. was no walk in the park. Imagine being the daughter of the legendary Frank Sinatra, but with the twist that you were born from an affair while he was still married to his first wife, Nancy Barbato. That little tidbit was like a shadow that followed her everywhere, making family life a complicated web of scandal and drama. From the moment she came into the world, there were whispers and gossip swirling around her. Being the child of an extramarital affair put her right in the crosshairs of public scrutiny. The media just wouldn't let up, painting her as part of this huge scandal that stained her father's reputation. Can you imagine that pressure? As a kid, she found herself living under the spotlight, with her father's larger-than-life persona overshadowing her own identity. She wasn't alone, though. She had two older siblings, Frank Jr. and Tina. But even with family around, Nancy often felt like the odd one out. Her relationship with her dad was complicated too. The weight of his past choices hung heavily over their interactions. Sure, Frank Sinatra was charming and talented, but he was also a guy with a lot of baggage, and sometimes those ghosts seemed to get in the way of the love he had for his kids. As Nancy grew up, she slowly started to piece together the story of her birth and all the circumstances surrounding it. Finding out that she was the product of an affair was a real eye-opener. It wasn't just shocking, it was a heavy burden to carry. This realization changed how she saw family and belonging. While her siblings seemed to have a more straightforward relationship with their dad, Nancy struggled with feelings of alienation and confusion, and let's not even get started on how the media treated her. They constantly compared her to her dad, which only added to the stress. She wanted to carve out her own identity and pursue a music career, but the shadow of Frank Sinatra's fame was both a blessing and a curse. Some days, she felt like she could ride the coattails of his legacy, but other times it felt suffocating, like she could never escape the constant scrutiny that came with being his daughter. Her situation was even trickier because her existence was a painful reminder of Frank's infidelities. While she was trying to make her own way in the music industry, the emotional toll of being Frank Sinatra's daughter weighed heavily on her shoulders. She just wanted a narrative that wasn't tangled up in scandal. A story where she could be seen for who she was, not just as the child of her father's mistakes. As she navigated her career, Nancy faced the ongoing challenge of living with the choices her father made. Even with her successes, the complexities of her upbringing left her grappling with big questions about love, loyalty, and her own identity. Frank was a source of pride, no doubt, but the circumstances of her birth created an emotional landscape that was fraught with confusion and conflict. In the end, Nancy Sinatra Jr.'s journey really highlights the struggles of growing up in the shadow of a famous parent. Her story shows how family secrets can impact one's sense of self and the fight for identity in a world that often wants to define you by your lineage. Despite the weight of her father's legacy, she ultimately sought to forge her own path, trying to balance honoring her family history with establishing her own identity in a world that was always watching. Norman Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin, the legendary silent film star famous for his character the Tramp, had quite a roller coaster ride when it came to his personal life. One of the more scandalous parts of his story is his affair with actress Lita Grey. This whole situation not only stirred up a lot of drama in Hollywood, but also had a significant impact on their son, Norman Spencer Chaplin. So, here's how it went down. Charlie was working on the film The Kid when he got involved with Lita, who was just a teenager at the time. Their romance sparked a lot of gossip, especially since Charlie was already a big deal in Hollywood and the age gap made people raise their eyebrows. It was like a classic Hollywood scandal. While plenty of actors were indulging in affairs, Charlie's choices attracted an extra layer of scrutiny because of his fame. When Lita found out she was pregnant, things got even messier. They rushed to get married in 1924, but let's just say the fairy tale didn't last long. Right from the start, their relationship was rocky. Lita later claimed she felt pressured into the marriage, which obviously didn't help the situation. Can you imagine the stress? Then came their son, Norman, born on July 7, 1928. While everyone was excited to welcome the child of such a famous couple, the tension in the family was palpable. Being born into a scandal like this would be hard for any kid. On one hand, you have the thrill of being the child of a superstar, but on the other, you're surrounded by chaos and drama. As the years went on, things really fell apart. Charlie and Lita's marriage turned into a public battleground, with all the juicy details of their fights making headlines. Lita accused Charlie of neglecting his family in favor of his career, which added to the public drama. For Norman, that must have been tough. He was right in the middle of all this conflict, and the media attention was unrelenting. Growing up as Charlie Chaplin's son meant living in a spotlight that could be hard to bear. People were constantly comparing him to his famous father, and the scandal surrounding his parents was always lurking in the background. It's like Norman had to carry the weight of not just being Chaplin's kid, but also dealing with the fallout from a marriage that was anything but smooth. In the end, Norman Spencer Chaplin's story highlights the challenges of growing up in a world filled with fame and scandal. While his father was a beloved figure in film history, the chaotic nature of his family life created a complicated legacy for Norman. He had to navigate the complexities of identity and self-worth, all while trying to make sense of the drama that surrounded his family. It's a reminder that behind the glitz and glamour, there are real stories of struggle and resilience. Katie Wagner. The story of Robert Wagner and his daughter Katie Wagner is quite the fascinating one. So, Robert Wagner, the charming actor known for his roles in classic films and hit TV shows, had a brief relationship with actress Marion Marshall, and from that romance came Katie. Now imagine being born into this whirlwind of Hollywood drama. Katie's birth came with its fair share of complications. Robert was a rising star, and Marion was no slouch either, but the relationship was short-lived. They weren't together for long, and soon after, Wagner went on to marry the stunning Natalie Wood, which added a whole new layer of complexity to Katie's life. Growing up, Katie found herself navigating this chaotic family landscape. It must have been tough, with her father's high-profile marriage to Natalie Wood, who was one of the biggest stars of the era. Katie was often caught in the crossfire of public attention. You can only imagine the pressure of living up to that legacy. Katie often felt like she was trying to carve out her own identity while living in the shadow of her father's fame and the incredible talent of her stepmother. Every time someone brought up her father, they would also mention Natalie, which had to be both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it meant she had a famous father, but on the other, it meant she was constantly compared to two larger-than-life figures. It was like trying to find her own voice in a chorus of celebrity. And let's be honest, Hollywood can be a tough place to grow up, especially when you're the daughter of someone like Robert Wagner. It's not just about being the child of a famous actor. It's about dealing with the intricacies of family relationships that come with that fame. Katie's experience highlights the complexities many children of stars face. Even though Robert Wagner loved her and wanted the best for her, the dynamics of his relationships and the scrutiny from the media must have been challenging for her. It's a classic tale of trying to navigate a path when everyone else seems to have their eyes on your family drama, making it difficult to define who you are outside of that narrative. Ultimately, Katie Wagner's story is a reminder of the challenges that come with having a famous parent. It's a delicate dance of trying to embrace that legacy while also striving to stand out on her own terms.
Margaret Lockwood's journey through the world of acting was not just a career. It was a rebellion against the conventional, a series of choices that marked her as cinema's captivating contrarian. From her early days on the stage to her reign as the queen of Gainsborough melodramas, Lockwood defied expectations, choosing roles that challenged and transcended the traditional confines of female characters in British cinema. But what drove her to these choices? Was it a deliberate defiance, a personal inclination, or simply the allure of the complex and the controversial? And how did this contrarian path affect her, both as an actress and as a person living in the relentless spotlight of fame? As we peel back the layers of Margaret Lockwood's illustrious career, we uncover the stories of ambition, passion, and complexity. We delve into her iconic roles, from the virtuous to the villainous, and explore how these characters became inextricably linked with Lockwood's off-screen persona. We trace her journey through the war years, a time that tested her resolve and reshaped her career, and follow her transition to the stage and television, where she continued to captivate audiences with her versatility and depth. This is an homage to Margaret Lockwood, a woman whose legacy in British cinema is as enduring as it is enigmatic. Join us as we explore the life and career of cinema's captivating contrarian, a woman who lived her life with the same intensity and complexity as the characters she brought to life on screen. Prepare to be captivated by the story of Margaret Lockwood, a true icon of British cinema. Early life and ascent to stardom. Margaret Lockwood, born on September 15, 1916, in Karachi, British India, now Pakistan, embarked on a journey that would see her become one of Britain's most beloved film stars. Her early life, marked by a move to London at a young age, laid the foundation for a career that would span decades and ingrain her in the annals of British cinema history. This chapter delves into the formative years of Lockwood's life, her entry into the world of acting, and the pivotal roles that catapulted her to stardom, setting her on a path to becoming cinema's captivating contrarian. Lockwood's interest in acting was nurtured from a young age, influenced by her mother, who encouraged her to pursue her passion for the stage. This support led her to attend the Italia Conti Academy of Theatre Arts in London, where she honed her craft and prepared for a career in acting. Lockwood's early experiences in theatre, including her professional debut in 1934 in a production of The Lash, were instrumental in developing her skills and presence as an actress. These formative years in the theater were crucial, providing her with the discipline and versatility that would become hallmarks of her career. Lockwood's transition from the stage to the screen was marked by her film debut in Lorna Doone, 1934, a minor role that nonetheless offered her valuable experience in the burgeoning British film industry. However, it was her performance in The Man in Grey, 1943, that truly marked her ascent to stardom. In this film, part of the Gainsborough melodramas, Lockwood's portrayal of the malevolent Hester Shaw showcased her ability to captivate audiences with her complex characterizations, setting her apart from her contemporaries. The Man in Grey was a turning point for Lockwood, both professionally and personally. The film's success catapulted her to fame, establishing her as a leading lady in British cinema. It also marked the beginning of her long-standing collaboration with Gainsborough Studios, where she would go on to star in a series of melodramas that capitalized on her unique blend of elegance, intensity, and depth. Films such as Love Story, 1944, and The Wicked Lady, 1945, further solidified her status as a cinematic icon, with Lockwood's performances earning critical acclaim and drawing audiences with their blend of romance, intrigue, and drama. Lockwood's ascent to stardom was not without its challenges. The British film industry, like its Hollywood counterpart, was a male-dominated field, with limited roles for women that often relegated them to secondary status. Lockwood's choice of roles, often strong, complex women who defied societal expectations, was both a reflection of her personal convictions and a strategic career move. By choosing such roles, Lockwood not only challenged the industry's gender norms, but also carved out a niche for herself as an actress capable of delivering powerful performances that resonated with audiences. The Gainsborough melodramas. Margaret Lockwood's career took a definitive turn with her roles in the Gainsborough melodramas during the 1940s, a period that not only marked her ascent to stardom, but also saw her becoming the embodiment of a certain kind of on-screen femininity that was both alluring and complex. The Gainsborough melodramas, known for their lavish costumes, intricate plots, and emotional intensity, provided the perfect backdrop for Lockwood to showcase her range as an actress. This chapter delves into her involvement in these films, focusing on how they shaped her public persona and contributed to her image as cinema's captivating contrarian. The Gainsborough melodramas were a series of films produced by Gainsborough Pictures, which became immensely popular in wartime Britain. They were characterized by their romantic and often scandalous narratives, which stood in stark contrast to the realities of wartime austerity. Lockwood's roles in these films, particularly in The Man in Grey, 1943, and The Wicked Lady, 1945, catapulted her to the status of a national icon. In The Man in Grey, Lockwood's portrayal of the malevolent Hester Shaw revealed her ability to inhabit morally complex characters, challenging the audience's perceptions and sympathies. Her performance in The Wicked Lady further cemented her status as a leading lady capable of carrying a film with her nuanced portrayal of Barbara Worth, a character driven by passion and ambition. Lockwood's roles in these melodramas were significant for several reasons. Firstly, they allowed her to break away from the more traditional roles assigned to women in British cinema, offering her opportunities to explore characters with depth, agency, and complexity. Secondly, these roles resonated with the British public, who were drawn to the escapism offered by the melodramas. Lockwood's characters, often women who defied societal norms and pursued their desires unabashedly, offered a form of vicarious liberation to audiences confined by the strictures of wartime Britain. The impact of the Gainsborough melodramas on Lockwood's career was profound. They established her as a versatile actress capable of drawing audiences into the emotional landscapes of her characters. Moreover, these films showcased Lockwood's ability to navigate the dualities of her roles, women who were at once desirable and dangerous, vulnerable and powerful. This complexity made her performances stand out and contributed to her lasting legacy in British cinema. However, Lockwood's association with the melodramas also presented challenges. The typecasting inherent in her success with these films meant that she had to work harder to find roles that allowed her to step outside the melodramatic genre and demonstrate her range as an actress. Despite these challenges, Lockwood's work in the Gainsborough melodramas remains a testament to her skill, charisma, and enduring appeal as an actress. Iconic roles and performances. Beyond the Gainsborough melodramas, Lockwood's career was marked by a series of roles that showcased her ability to navigate a wide range of characters, from the ingenue to the femme fatale, each imbued with her unique blend of charisma and complexity. This chapter explores some of Lockwood's most memorable performances, highlighting how these roles contributed to her enduring legacy in British cinema. One of Lockwood's most celebrated roles came early in her career with Alfred Hitchcock's The Lady Vanishes, 1938. In this film, Lockwood played Iris Henderson, a young woman who becomes embroiled in a mystery when a fellow passenger disappears on a train journey across Europe. Lockwood's performance was pivotal to the film's success, blending strength and vulnerability in a way that captivated audiences and critics alike. The Lady Vanishes not only solidified Hitchcock's reputation as a master of suspense, but also demonstrated Lockwood's capacity for leading roles that required a delicate balance of determination and nuance. Following her success in the Gainsborough melodramas, Lockwood continued to explore complex characters, notably in The Wicked Lady, 1945. Her portrayal of Barbara Worth, a character driven by ambition and desire, was both controversial and compelling, challenging post-war British society's expectations of women. Lockwood's ability to elicit sympathy for an ostensibly immoral character spoke volumes about her skill and presence as an actress. Another significant role was in Jassy, 1947, where Lockwood played a Romany woman endowed with the gift of second sight, accused of witchcraft. This role allowed Lockwood to delve into a character that was both outside the societal norms and rich with emotional depth, further showcasing her range and contributing to the film's success. Lockwood's performances were not confined to the silver screen. Her stage work, particularly in plays such as Peter Pan and Private Lives, demonstrated her versatility and commitment to her craft. These theatrical roles allowed Lockwood to engage with her audience in a more intimate setting, bringing a different dimension to her performances and allowing her to explore the nuances of her characters in real time. Throughout her career, Lockwood navigated the changing landscape of British cinema with grace and adaptability. Her choice of roles reflected not only her personal interests and challenges, but also her keen understanding of the industry and her audience. Lockwood's performances, characterized by their emotional depth and complexity, challenged the conventional portrayals of women on screen, offering audiences a glimpse into the lives of fully realized, multifaceted characters. Margaret Lockwood's iconic roles and performances left an indelible mark on British cinema. Her ability to captivate audiences, coupled with her willingness to explore complex and often controversial characters, cemented her status as one of Britain's most beloved actresses. The contrarian persona on and off screen. Margaret Lockwood's public persona was as multifaceted and intriguing as the characters she portrayed on screen. Known for her captivating performances and complex roles, Lockwood also exhibited a strong, independent spirit in her personal life, often making choices that defied the expectations of her time. This chapter delves into Lockwood's off-screen personality, her interactions with the press and public, and how her personal convictions influenced her career and public image. Lockwood's career choices reflected a contrarian streak that set her apart from her contemporaries. She was not content to be pigeonholed into the traditional roles available to women in the film industry of her era. Instead, she sought out and thrived in roles that offered depth and nuance, portraying women who were not just romantic interests or damsels in distress, but complex individuals with their own stories and agency. This approach to her career was indicative of Lockwood's broader views on women's roles in society and the film industry, where she advocated for greater representation and complexity in female characters. Off-screen, Lockwood was known for her wit, intelligence, and a certain degree of privacy. She managed to maintain a balance between her public persona and her private life, a feat in an era when the private lives of film stars were increasingly becoming fodder for public consumption. Lockwood's interactions with the press were marked by a savvy understanding of the power of media, using interviews and public appearances to craft an image that was both accessible and enigmatic. Despite her success and popularity, Lockwood was not immune to the challenges faced by women in the entertainment industry. She navigated the pressures of fame with a pragmatic approach, making strategic decisions that allowed her to pursue the roles she wanted while maintaining a level of control over her career. Her ability to do so was partly due to her talent and partly due to her understanding of the industry's dynamics, which she used to her advantage. Lockwood's personal life, particularly her relationships and role as a mother, also reflected her independent spirit. She was a devoted mother to her daughter, Julia Lockwood, and worked to balance her career with her responsibilities as a parent. This aspect of her life, though less publicized, was an essential part of her identity and influenced her choices in roles and projects. The legacy of Margaret Lockwood's contrarian persona extends beyond her filmography. She was a trailblazer in many ways, challenging the norms of her time and paving the way for future generations of actresses. Her insistence on complex, strong-willed characters helped to broaden the scope of roles available to women in British cinema, contributing to a gradual shift in how female characters were portrayed on screen. Margaret Lockwood's life and career were a study in contrasts. On screen, she was often the epitome of grace and mystery, captivating audiences with her performances. Off-screen, she was a woman of conviction and independence, navigating the complexities of fame and personal life with intelligence and grace. Her persona, both on and off the screen, remains a compelling aspect of her legacy, making her one of British cinema's most enduring and fascinating figure. The war years and beyond. The war years marked a pivotal period in Margaret Lockwood's career, reflecting a time when the entertainment industry was deeply intertwined with the national war effort. Lockwood's roles during this period took on a new dimension, as British cinema sought to boost morale and support the war effort. Post-war, her career transitioned as she embraced new opportunities in television and stage, showcasing her versatility as an actress. During World War II, British cinema played a crucial role in maintaining public morale. Lockwood starred in The Lady Vanishes, 1938, directed by Alfred Hitchcock before the war's outbreak, which became a significant success both in the UK and internationally. However, it was her work in films such as Love Story, 1944, where she played a concert pianist who goes blind, that resonated with wartime audiences. The film, released amidst the backdrop of the war, showcased Lockwood's ability to portray resilience and strength, qualities that mirrored the national sentiment. In 1945, as the war concluded, Lockwood's career continued to flourish with the release of The Wicked Lady, 1945, a film that became one of the highest-grossing British films of the decade. Her portrayal of Barbara Worth, a character who becomes a highwaywoman, captivated post-war audiences, eager for escapism and intrigued by Lockwood's complex portrayal of her character's ambition and defiance. As British cinema transitioned in the post-war years, so did Lockwood's career. The late 1940s and 1950s saw her taking on roles that were reflective of the changing societal attitudes and the film industry's evolution. Films like Highly Dangerous, 1950, where Lockwood played a scientist sent behind the Iron Curtain, showcased her in roles that broke away from traditional stereotypes, aligning with the era's growing interest in spy thrillers and Cold War narratives. Lockwood's transition to television and stage in the 1950s and 1960s marked a new chapter in her career. She embraced the medium of television, appearing in productions such as Justice, 1971 to 1974, a legal drama series that offered her the lead role as Harriet Peterson, a barrister navigating the complexities of law and justice. This role, among others, demonstrated Lockwood's adaptability and continued appeal as an actress, allowing her to reach new audiences and explore different facets of her craft. Her stage work during this period included notable performances in productions such as Peter Pan and Private Lives, where Lockwood's stage presence and performance depth were on full display. These roles allowed her to engage with live audiences, bringing a different dimension to her acting and further solidifying her status as a versatile and skilled performer. The stage and television. In the 1950s, as the allure of cinema began to compete with the rising popularity of television, Lockwood, like many of her contemporaries, explored opportunities in this new medium. Television offered a platform for more intimate storytelling and character development, aspects that played to Lockwood's strengths as an actress known for her depth and nuance. One of her significant television roles came in the early 1970s with the legal drama series Justice. Lockwood starred as Harriet Peterson, a barrister navigating the complexities of the legal system and championing the cause of justice. This role allowed Lockwood to portray a strong, intelligent woman breaking barriers in a male-dominated profession, themes that resonated with her career-long penchant for playing pioneering female characters. Justice ran for several seasons, affirming Lockwood's status as a television star and introducing her to a new generation of viewers. Parallel to her television work, Lockwood's passion for the stage saw a revival. The theater offered her the opportunity to engage with live audiences, bringing an immediacy and energy that differed from her film and television roles. Her stage work included a variety of productions, from classic plays to contemporary dramas, allowing her to explore a range of characters and themes. One notable stage appearance was in the production of Peter Pan, where Lockwood played Mrs. Darling. The role leveraged her maternal warmth and elegance, qualities that had endeared her to film audiences in a setting that highlighted her versatility and stage presence. Another significant stage role was in Noel Coward's Private Lives, where she showcased her comedic timing and ability to capture the complexities of romantic entanglements. The legacy of a contrarian icon. Margaret Lockwood's foray into television and stage during the latter part of her career underscores her adaptability and enduring talent. By embracing these new arenas, she demonstrated a willingness to evolve with the industry and explore the breadth of her abilities as a performer. Her success in television and theater contributed to her legacy as one of Britain's most versatile and beloved actresses, whose career spanned the changing dynamics of the entertainment world. Lockwood's transition from cinema to television and stage also reflects broader trends in the entertainment industry during the mid-20th century, as actors sought to diversify their portfolios and engage with audiences across different mediums. Her ability to maintain relevance and acclaim across cinema, television, and theater is a testament to her skill, dedication, and the indelible mark she left on the performing arts. In the luminous yet shadowy world of Hollywood, where stars shine bright against the night sky, the story of Karen Black unfolds like a captivating screenplay filled with twists and turns, triumphs and trials. Known for her piercing gaze and unparalleled versatility, Karen Black carved a niche for herself in an era that redefined cinema. Yet, beneath the glittering surface of her celebrated career lay a tapestry of untold stories, hidden struggles, and enigmatic truths that fans never knew. Karen Black's journey from an aspiring actress to a cinematic icon of the 70s is a testament to her indomitable spirit and raw talent. But what lies beyond the accolades and the spotlight? From her groundbreaking performances that challenged the norms of her time to her ventures into the realms of writing and music, Karen's life was a mosaic of creativity and complexity. As we peel back the layers of her storied career, we uncover the method behind her magic, revealing the depth of her dedication to her craft. Yet Karen's life was not without its shadows. Personal battles fought away from the public eye, and her role as a mentor and advocate for the arts painted a picture of a woman whose influence extended far beyond the silver screen. A Star is Born. In the heartland of America, in the small town of Park Ridge, Illinois, a star was born on July 1, 1939. Karen Blanche Ziegler, who would later be known to the world as Karen Black, entered life with the kind of spark that presaged her future luminosity in the world of cinema. Raised in a household where creativity was the currency, her mother, a writer of several award-winning children's novels, and her father, a businessman with a penchant for storytelling, imbued in Karen a deep love for the arts from a tender age. Karen's journey to stardom was not a straight path, but a winding road filled with dreams, determination, and a relentless pursuit of expression. Her early years were marked by a sense of adventure and a quest for understanding the human condition, themes that would later permeate her most memorable performances. The family's move to Chicago when Karen was young opened new vistas of opportunity, exposing her to the vibrant theater scene that thrived in the city's heart. The stage became Karen's first love and battleground, where she honed her craft and learned the ropes of acting. Her education at the Goodman Theater School of Drama at the Art Institute of Chicago was not just an academic pursuit, it was a rite of passage. Here Karen delved into the depths of character development and the nuances of performance, laying the foundation for a career that would defy conventions and challenge perceptions. Yet, the call of Hollywood was irresistible. In the early 1960s, with a heart full of dreams and a suitcase packed with ambition, Karen made the pilgrimage west, joining the ranks of hopefuls in the city of angels. Los Angeles was a world away from the theaters of Chicago, a place where dreams were both made and shattered. Karen's early days in Hollywood were a test of her resolve, a period of auditions, rejections, and small parts that tested the limits of her perseverance. But Karen Black was not one to be easily dissuaded. Her breakthrough came in a way that seemed almost fated, a serendipitous alignment of talent, timing, and opportunity. It was her role in Francis Ford Coppola's You're a Big Boy Now, 1966, that first turned heads, but it was the seminal year of 1969 that would forever change her trajectory. Her roles in Easy Rider, alongside Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper, and as Rayette DePesto in 5 Easy Pieces opposite Jack Nicholson, showcased her extraordinary range and raw emotional depth, earning her critical acclaim and a place in the pantheon of new Hollywood icons. The breakthrough. The late 1960s and early 1970s marked a seismic shift in American cinema, a period now revered as the new Hollywood era. It was a time when the film industry underwent a radical transformation, driven by a new generation of filmmakers and actors who dared to push the boundaries of storytelling, character development, and cinematic art. Amidst this cultural revolution, Karen Black emerged as a defining figure, her breakthrough performances resonating with both the zeitgeist of the times and the evolving tastes of the audience. Karen's role in 5 Easy Pieces, 1970, a film that has since become emblematic of the New Hollywood movement, was a career-defining moment. Portraying Rayette DePesto, a waitress who embodies the complexities of love, longing, and societal displacement, Karen delivered a performance that was both heart-wrenching and deeply human. Her ability to convey the subtleties of emotion and vulnerability earned her an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress, cementing her status as one of the era's most talented and versatile actors. This period of Karen's career was marked by a series of roles that showcased her range and depth as an actress. In The Great Gatsby, 1974, she took on the role of Myrtle Wilson, bringing to life the tragic figure with a performance that was both nuanced and powerful. Her portrayal of Myrtle's desperation and doomed aspirations highlighted Karen's skill in capturing the essence of complex characters, further establishing her as a force to be reckoned with in Hollywood. Another significant milestone came with her role in Airport 1975, where Karen played the stewardess Nancy Pryor. In a film that combined disaster movie tropes with human drama, Karen's performance stood out, offering a glimpse into her ability to anchor a film with her presence and emotional depth. This role, among others, demonstrated her versatility and helped solidify her reputation as one of the most reliable and compelling actresses of her time. The method behind the magic. Karen Black's approach to her craft was as unique as the characters she brought to life on screen. Rooted in the method acting technique, her preparation for roles went beyond mere memorization of lines or understanding the script. Karen delved deep into the psyche of her characters, seeking to inhabit their world fully and bring an authenticity to her performances that resonated with audiences and critics alike. Her dedication to the method was evident in the way she approached each role, often spending weeks or even months researching and immersing herself in the character's background, motivations, and emotional landscape. This intense preparation process allowed Karen to deliver performances that were not only compelling, but also deeply human, capturing the complexities and nuances of the characters she portrayed. One of the most striking examples of Karen's method acting came with her role in 5 Easy Pieces. To embody Rayette, a character whose dreams and disappointments are palpable throughout the film, Karen spent time in diners, observing and interacting with waitresses to capture the essence of her character's life. Her commitment to authenticity paid off, resulting in a performance that was both powerful and poignant, earning her critical acclaim and an Academy Award nomination. Karen's ability to transform herself for her roles was not limited to dramatic parts. In Trilogy of Terror, 1975, a made-for-television anthology horror film, she showcased her versatility by playing 4 distinct characters, including a tormented college student and a woman terrorized by a Zuni fetish doll. Her performances in this film highlighted her skill in navigating a range of emotions and genres, from terror to despair, further cementing her status as a versatile and talented actress. Behind the magic of Karen Black's performances was a relentless pursuit of truth in her portrayal of characters. Whether it was through meticulous research, physical transformation, or emotional immersion, Karen's method acting technique was a testament to her dedication to her craft and her desire to connect with audiences on a profound level. Her legacy as an actress is not only defined by the roles she played, but also by the depth and authenticity she brought to each character, leaving an indelible mark on the world of cinema. Hidden talents. Karen Black's artistry extended far beyond the silver screen, revealing a woman of multifaceted talents and interests. While audiences around the world knew her as a captivating actress, many were unaware of the depth of her creativity, which flowed through her veins like an unending river, touching the shores of music, writing, and more. Music was one of Karen's most profound hidden talents. With a voice as distinctive as her on-screen presence, she ventured into the world of songwriting and singing with a passion that mirrored her approach to acting. Her album, released in the early 1980s, showcased not just her vocal abilities but also her skill as a songwriter. The songs, imbued with introspective lyrics and melodic tunes, offered listeners a glimpse into the inner world of an artist who found solace and expression in the rhythm and rhymes of music. Karen's literary talents were another aspect of her creative persona that remained largely out of the public eye. A prolific writer, she penned several screenplays and stories, each reflecting her keen observations of the human condition and her deep understanding of emotional complexities. Her writing, much like her performances, was a canvas where she explored themes of love, loss, and the intricacies of human relationships. In addition to her musical and literary endeavors, Karen had a keen interest in photography and painting, mediums through which she captured the beauty and absurdity of the world around her. Her photographs and artworks, though seldom exhibited, were as expressive and evocative as her roles on screen, marked by a unique perspective that was unmistakably Karen. Karen Black's hidden talents were a testament to her boundless creativity and her relentless pursuit of artistic expression. Whether through the chords of a song, the words on a page, or the strokes of a brush, she communicated with a depth and sincerity that resonated with those who had the privilege of experiencing her art. Her legacy, enriched by these diverse talents, stands as a reminder of the profound impact a truly creative spirit can have on the world. The cult icon. Karen Black's journey through Hollywood's ever-changing landscape solidified her status not just as a versatile actress, but as a cult icon whose work resonated deeply within the realms of independent cinema and genre films. Her fearless choice of roles and her unparalleled ability to breathe life into every character she portrayed endeared her to a dedicated fan base that revered her as much for her unconventional choices as for her undeniable talent. The 1970s and 1980s saw Karen embracing roles in films that would later be celebrated as cult classics, further cementing her legacy as an icon of alternative cinema. Her appearance in Trilogy of Terror, 1975, a horror anthology television movie, showcased her exceptional range and ability to captivate audiences with her performance in 3 distinct roles, particularly as the tormented protagonist in the segment featuring the now infamous Zuni fetish doll. This role, among others, contributed to her lasting legacy in the horror genre, making her a beloved figure among horror enthusiasts. Karen's work in Burnt Offerings, 1976, further exemplified her status as a cult icon. In this haunted house thriller, her portrayal of a wife and mother slowly succumbing to the malevolent forces of her family's new home highlighted her skill in navigating the psychological depths of her characters, earning the film a special place in the hearts of horror aficionados. Beyond horror, Karen's roles in independent films and her collaborations with pioneering directors of the time played a significant role in her cult iconography. Her ability to seamlessly transition between genres, from drama to horror to comedy, showcased her versatility and fearless approach to her craft. This adaptability made her a favorite among directors looking for an actress who could bring complexity and authenticity to challenging roles. Personal struggles, public battles. Karen Black's luminous career and diverse artistic pursuits were often shadowed by personal struggles and public battles that tested her resilience and fortitude. Despite the challenges she faced, Karen's spirit remained unbroken, exemplifying her strength and determination to overcome adversity. One of the most significant struggles in Karen's life was her battle with health issues that emerged later in her career. In 2010, Karen was diagnosed with ampullary cancer, a rare form of cancer that affects the bile duct. The diagnosis marked the beginning of a difficult journey, as Karen underwent several medical treatments, including surgery and chemotherapy, in an effort to combat the disease. Her fight against cancer was not only a personal struggle, but also a public battle, as she shared her experiences with her fans and the world, showcasing her vulnerability and humanity. Karen's health battle took a toll on her professionally, as it limited her ability to work and take on new projects. However, her determination to continue acting and her passion for the arts never waned. Even during her treatment, Karen sought to remain active in the creative community, participating in projects as much as her health would allow and continuing to inspire those around her with her resilience. In addition to her health struggles, Karen faced financial difficulties that were exacerbated by her medical expenses. In 2013, her family launched a crowdfunding campaign to help cover the costs of her treatment, revealing the extent of her financial strain. The campaign received an outpouring of support from fans and the film community, highlighting the deep affection and respect that many held for Karen. The mentor. Beyond her roles as an actress, Karen embraced the role of mentor with a generosity and passion that mirrored her approach to her craft. Her dedication to nurturing new talent was a testament to her belief in the transformative power of art and the importance of guidance and support in the creative journey. Karen's mentorship extended across various facets of filmmaking, from acting to writing and directing. She was known for her willingness to share her experiences, offering insights gleaned from decades in a challenging industry. Her advice was not just about the technicalities of acting or the nuances of character development. It was also about navigating the complexities of the film industry, maintaining artistic integrity, and the importance of resilience. One of Karen's most impactful contributions as a mentor was her involvement in workshops and acting classes. Here, she engaged with aspiring actors, providing them with a safe space to explore their abilities and push their boundaries. Karen's teaching style was immersive and hands-on, encouraging students to delve deep into their characters and embrace their vulnerabilities. She believed that true artistry in acting came from a place of honesty and emotional truth, and she guided her students in their pursuit of these ideals. Beyond formal settings, Karen's mentorship was also evident in her everyday interactions with young filmmakers and actors. She was known for her openness and approachability, often taking the time to engage in meaningful conversations with those seeking her advice. Her encouragement and support could be a turning point for many, offering them the confidence to pursue their dreams in an industry that could often seem impenetrable. Karen's impact as a mentor went beyond the technical aspects of filmmaking. She inspired her mentees to approach their art with a sense of purpose and a deep respect for the storytelling process. She emphasized the importance of empathy and emotional intelligence in creating work that resonated with audiences. Her guidance helped shape a new generation of artists, imbuing them with a sense of responsibility to their craft and to the stories they chose to tell. Moreover, Karen's mentorship reflected her broader vision for the film industry, a community where collaboration and mutual support were foundational values. She envisioned a space where creativity was nurtured and diverse voices were celebrated, paving the way for a more inclusive and dynamic cinematic landscape. An unconventional style. Karen Black's style was a vivid reflection of her era's cultural shifts, embodying the spirit of the 1960s and 70s with a distinctive flair that set her apart in Hollywood's fashion landscape. Her approach to fashion was as eclectic and daring as the roles she chose, making her a style icon who defied the conventional norms of celebrity dressing. In the 1970s, when Black's career was at its zenith, fashion was undergoing a radical transformation. The decade celebrated individuality and self-expression, with influences ranging from the bohemian to the disco. Karen navigated these trends with an innate sense of style that was both of the moment and timeless. She was often seen in maxi dresses, a staple of 70s fashion, which she styled with her unique twist, incorporating bold prints and unconventional accessories that highlighted her artistic sensibility. Karen's public appearances were marked by her preference for outfits that blended glamour with a touch of the avant-garde. At the 46th Academy Awards in 1974, where she was nominated for her performance in The Great Gatsby, Karen epitomized 70s chic in a black halter neck gown. The simplicity of the dress was offset by her dramatic makeup and hairstyle, showcasing her ability to merge classic Hollywood elegance with the era's more experimental trends. Off the red carpet, Karen's personal style was equally compelling. She was known for her love of vintage clothing, often spotted in secondhand stores searching for unique pieces that she would incorporate into her everyday wardrobe. This penchant for vintage was not just a fashion statement, but a reflection of her broader artistic and environmental values, predating the contemporary movement towards sustainable fashion. Karen's influence on fashion extended beyond her personal style. She was a muse to several designers of the time who were drawn to her unconventional beauty and fearless approach to fashion. Her collaborations with these designers often resulted in groundbreaking looks that captured the imagination of the public and the fashion industry alike. Karen Black's unconventional style was more than just a facet of her public persona. It was an integral part of her identity as an artist and individual. Through her fashion choices, she communicated a sense of freedom, creativity, and defiance that resonated with the cultural zeitgeist of her time and continues to inspire today. The final act. Karen Black's career spanned over 5 decades, during which she became an emblem of versatility and resilience in the entertainment industry. Her final years, however, were marked by a courageous battle with cancer that she faced with the same strength and dignity that characterized her life and work. In 2010, Karen was diagnosed with ampullary cancer, leading to an extensive medical battle that included surgery and chemotherapy. Despite the severity of her condition, she continued to work, showcasing her unwavering dedication to her craft. One of her last film projects was She Loves Me Not, 2013, a testament to her enduring talent and commitment to acting even in the face of adversity. Karen's health struggles became public in 2013 when her husband, Stephen Eckleberry, launched a crowdfunding campaign to help cover the costs of her medical treatments. The campaign highlighted not only the financial challenges faced by many veteran actors, but also the outpouring of support from fans and the film community. This gesture underscored the impact Karen had on her audience and peers, reflecting the deep affection and respect she garnered throughout her career. On August 8, 2013, Karen Black passed away at the age of 74. Her death was mourned by many who had been touched by her performances, her spirit, and her courage. Tributes poured in from across the industry, with colleagues, critics, and fans alike celebrating her contributions to cinema and her role as a trailblazer for women in Hollywood. Karen's legacy is preserved not only through her memorable performances in films like Five Easy Pieces, The Great Gatsby, and Nashville, but also through her influence on independent cinema and her advocacy for creative expression. She remains a figure of inspiration for her ability to navigate the complexities of fame and personal challenges with grace. Her final act, marked by both personal struggle and professional achievements, serves as a poignant reminder of the human behind the celebrity. Karen Black's story is one of talent, resilience, and the indomitable spirit of an artist who continued to inspire until the very end. Giovanni Jackson, Daddy's Girl,